Good evening. Thank you for attending tonight's July 13 York County Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. Welcome you all. I welcome you all to the July 13th York County meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. The process for this evening will, the first thing we'll do is have the adoption of the minutes from the last meeting. I do not believe we have any old business, so then we'll move on to new business. The way that'll proceed is the staff will come up and give their presentation. After they've given their presentation, the applicant will be brought up and they can give their presentation. Once the applicant has given their presentation, it's open for the public to speak for or against. At the conclusion of that, the applicant can come back up and speak again. At that point in time, we close the public hearing for that item, and it's open open for a motion from the board to either accept, deny, or defer. There'll be discussion, and then a vote will be taken. I ask when you come to the podium that you please state your name and address prior to giving your presentation. So that being said, the first thing would be to approve the minutes from last meeting. Has everybody reviewed them? Does anybody have anything to add, change, comment?
I move to approve.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Minutes are approved. Okay, like I said, no old business to go through, so we'll go to the first case, which is Z23-13B.
Hello, can you hear me? It's working.
Yeah.
Bringing before you case Z23-13V. My clicker is not on. There we go. The owner applicant, Mr. Weaver, the property located at 2410 McGill Road, which is about 2.5 miles north of Sharon. It's zoned in agricultural conservation, and he's looking for a variance to the 100-foot setback from the right-of-way. Right here we got a vicinity map that shows the parcel in question, and the zoning map, and there's a contour map, shows you the elevations and the site. The subject property is a little over 28 acres. It's owned AGC. The site includes a recently permitted 64 by 32-foot mobile home to be sited 1,000 feet from McGill and 30 feet from the southern property line. The applicant seeks to place a 96 by 45-foot modular home 75 feet from McGill Road. He states the proposed location is out of the hayfields and only flat area available for a modular home. And he's claiming hardship due to the approval of a septic system in 2008. It's located behind the proposed location. Due to the required setback from the existing power line easement is located 129 feet away from the right-of-way. Is an issue that he's trying to overcome. And he states the septic can't be moved due to terrain, and to move the house 15 feet behind the power lines would impact the required septic separation from the proposed well and would cost a lot to regrade the hill. This shows you the site and the power line behind it, and there's a pretty good sized tree that also might interfere with moving the structure behind that power line.
So could you go back to that picture? is there a foundation in place now? Is that what I'm seeing?
Footings?
I believe it's under the 10,000 requiring a permit for a disturbance area, but certainly there now.
But is that the proposed location for the modular home?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And in order to gain a variance, you must meet the four approval criteria. And the first one's about there's an extraordinary and exceptional condition pertaining to a particular piece of property. The subject parcel is somewhat constrained in consideration of the location of an existing power line, rolling train, and a mature tree, and a considerable grading work and tree removal and a greater disturbance to the farmland would be necessary to create a compliant site plan in this general location. The applicant does have a very large parcel, and the development could be supported away from McGill Road. Therefore, the staff finds the proposed variance does not meet the criteria. The second criteria, the conditions do not generally apply to other properties in the vicinity. The distance of the power line from the right-of-way and train combined with natural features of sloping land is not unique to the subject parcel. In fact, a parcel directly to the north is bisected by the same power line and possesses a similar slope. Therefore, we had found that it does not meet that criteria. Criteria C, because these conditions are, the applicant is of this, because the conditions of this chapter, this particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of this property. The alteration of the site necessary to design a compliant site on the property would unreasonably restrict utilization for construction of the dwelling near McGill Road right away. Alternately, the applicant has a great deal of land to utilize and could find another building site. Therefore, we find a proposed variance does not meet the criteria. And the final one, the authorization of the variance would not be a substantial detriment to the adjacent property or the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. I've looked at this, and it looks like many of the nearby properties and have dwellings and structures closer than 100 feet to the right-of-way. This and nearby properties have significant frontages along the right-of-way, leaving these structures quite distant from one another. I do not believe this would constitute a significant detriment to the public good or the character of the district. Therefore, we'd find the proposal, the variance meets this criteria. The staff finds the proposal variance request does not meet all four of the criteria for an unnecessary hardship. The staff recommends denial of the requested variance.
So, I have two questions for you.
Yes.
Have you personally walked this property?
Yes.
Okay, and if we can go back to the picture that shows the elevation, that one, thank you.
Yeah.
So, after walking the property, if the owner would not, if we didn't grant the variance and we didn't allow them where they propose it, walking the property, where do you see fit that it would, is there a spot that you would think would be workable, that would be fairly level?
Well, somewhere along the southern property line could be viable. 1,000 feet back. I didn't go all the way to 1,000 feet back for the site for the mobile home that's permitted. There's several landings in that area where there are structures and facilities.
Okay. Okay, and then my second question is pertaining to B in the criteria. Do many of the other surrounding properties that you based your answer on, do any of them have two deeded homes on them, or two homes on the property that, because obviously there's two allowed on the property, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So do any of the other ones that you base that answer on, do any of them, are they just all single dwellings, or are there some properties that you based your answer on based on two dwellings on the property?
Well, he owns a lot right next to it, which has a couple houses. The one just to the south in this picture would have two. The ones to the north, I don't believe there's two up there.
Okay.
I don't see two on that. I didn't do an extensive research for two houses beyond that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I have a question regarding to condition B. You've got, in fact, the parcel directly to the north is bisected by the same power line and possesses a similar slope. It has a current home on it.
Yes.
Do you know when that home was placed there?
No, sir.
Any further questions for staff? Thank you.
Good.
If the applicant would like to come forward.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Greg Weaver. I'm the current owner of the property in question.
Address,
Address.
please.
I'm sorry?
Address, please.
Oh, it's 2454 McGill Road, and that's in Smyrna.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, you can go ahead.
all right. So we've done pretty extensive survey of this property. And honestly, there's only 2 locations that are buildable and perkable. So, and both of them are being utilized. The one that's 1,000 foot off has a home going on it. It's on there now. And the one up front, I mean, I wish I had, so the guide wire comes across 128 feet off McGill, the full length of the front road frontage. So that's where we're having an issue. There's already a well there. And obviously the builder, you know, I guess he thought he had his permits all in order, but he didn't. He started the footers, as you saw in that picture. So the only other area that is buildable is in the back part. However, if you look at it, it doesn't really show, but you see some disturbance there, and that's a barn that was tore down that is going to be put back on. So a lot of that property in the back and along the front, even on the front side, we are going to use for cattle. And we're planning on putting 30 cattle on there. So we have to have a field, a prime field and a back field to feed them. Because my other acreage on the south side of that property is all our hay that we bale. So we're kind of in a predicament. Unfortunately, he already put the foundation in, and I get that, but with the sloping, and as you see in the front section, there's a ravine that goes down through there. That's a natural spring. So the waterways, I got to be a certain feet away from that. I can't do any septic where you see that 147001 from that point towards McGill. Because of the springs, there's 2 of them. There's one above it, and there's one to the right of it. That you can see that dark areas. They're ravines and springs that feed that pond.
Okay.
So the only areas I have are where we are proposing 2 barns. One's a cattle storage, and one's going to be just hay storage. So I'm out of room on my own property, you know, because I have to have so many fenced-in area for the cattle. So it gives me a huge restriction. I mean, that's all I had. I had 2 locations, like I said, and they're being utilized. And it's for my daughter and my granddaughter, and my grandson. And they can't afford to do a lot of extensive, you know, I mean, it's just going to break them to redo all that and do groundwork. The cost itself just to bring electric in is that far is going to be, it's going to bankrupt them. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I saw the variance on the first 3 items, which I know it's someone's opinion, and I respect that. But not knowing what we're going to utilize this 28 acres for, you can't make an assumption. Because it's not only livestock involved, it's terrain. And I can't point to you where the septic is, but the septic is 1,000, it's about 200 feet behind that site mark. And it can't go any further because then it just get the grade, it doesn't perk. It's too soluble, it's going too fast is what the soil qualifiers are telling me.
So is the septic system there? It's installed?
Not yet, no.
I noticed that the permit,
It was
Says
permitted in
it's for-
2000, I don't know when this ordinance changed, bringing it from 75 to 100, but that septic system was permitted and approved in 2018. I think
noticed
that
that the permit
variance
says
was
it's-
changed in 2020.
says it's approved for a two-bedroom home, and I just
Right.
noticed that that modular home is 4,000 square feet, so
No, it's 75 by 32. I don't know where that 95 by 45 came to, but
So how many bedrooms?
it's two.
It's 2 bedrooms,
Yeah.
the modular home.
So can you clarify the issue with the power line?
So the power
what-
line is 129 feet to the power line. I have to be 15 feet off of it, but with the house having a front porch to get in, I have to take that into account, so I'm 20 feet off I have to be 20 feet off the power line. That's where my problem is. If I could
So-
move it back, I wouldn't have a problem.
So here's the reason why I asked. One of the things that we have to consider is whether or not the same conditions that you're dealing with have already been dealt with or would have to be dealt with by neighboring parcels. So how is that power line affect you in a way that it does not affect your neighbors?
Yeah, the power line is probably, 200 feet off his. The road goes that way, the power line goes on an angle. He could put a home there and not have a problem. My problem is from north to south along McGill, that power line is 129 feet out, right? So if I was to go 149 to the front of the house and then 32 feet would put me in that ravine. And the only place up top, I have enough to where I can get the septic in to where it perks. And even in that area, I have to go almost 200 feet down to get it to perk. So
So the
down
parcel-
the hill.
The parcel to the north, the power line is actually farther back
Yes,
into
sir.
the parcel?
Yes, sir.
And the parcel to the south, is it closer to the road?
That's my property, and it's the same. I mean, it runs right off, so the road straightens out there, as you see. So it varies from 129 to 130 on the south side. We've marked this thing, I mean, I don't know how, we've been fooling with this lot for a long time, and that's really without, I mean, we're just out of options. I'm here for that reason. I mean, if I had another option, I would do it. And I can't put it on this lot down here because we have already two homes on that property.
Any other questions? The applicant?
One other question, so, they referenced this Charles Whiteside Road.
It's no longer a road.
so
It was
it's-
folded into the property,
Okay,
the southern lot.
so it's basically
Yeah.
non-existent?
And
Okay,
that property line is technically on that road.
okay,
I don't know why it shows it off like that, but.
okay.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here to speak for or against this application? Okay, seeing none.
I make a motion to approve. I may be more familiar with this piece of property than Mr. Weaver is. We did a lot of work for the previous owner, and she let me turkey hunt this place. Now it's back in my fitter days, but still, there is a huge terrain change out there on this property. You know, I mean, it's I'm no track star, but it'll take the breath out of you trying to walk up and down those hills. The location that he's talking about, placing this home, there's a significant topo drop when you come off of where they're projecting to put this residence. I have a hard time with condition B. I'm not 100%. I haven't looked at the permits, but the neighbor to the north, I'm almost positive that home was placed there before this 100-foot setback change. You know, I think this 100-foot setback change is just very excessive, and so you know, you could argue that you know, that example is not adequate because it was placed there before this change. You know, I think it's definitely unique to this piece of property. You know, what we call hills and hollers out there, everybody's got a hill and a holler in a different place. So I think one could argue that you know, just because his hills and hollers are in the 100-foot setback doesn't mean the neighbors necessarily are. So I think that, you know, I understand that the DHEC permit, you know, you can't have, I don't know how much y'all know about liquids and solids in a septic system, but if you get too far down the hill, the liquids outrun the solids, so it doesn't do you any good. So that's why DHEC will only go in a certain spot while it only perks. So I would be on board to approve this.
The only,
Did you want a condition? There was a condition.
well, the only question I have is, and there was a condition,
It was no closer than 75 off of McGill.
75 feet, so I guess exactly, is the request to reduce the setback to 75 feet?
That's the way I read it.
So are we good with not attaching the condition?
We
Well,
need,
he's requesting a 25-foot.
right. And so-
reduction.
So if we approve that, it's automatically at 75 foot.
75.
Yeah, it just didn't say,
I mean,
it doesn't say that
yes,
anywhere
well,
on
I
here,
mean,
that's what
yes,
I'm
in
asking.
doing the math, but I don't know that I saw like an actual survey with it placed and measured out exactly at that. So I think that was probably why we included that.
Okay, so we're good.
Yeah.
All right, any further discussion?
Well, just to add to what Tony mentioned too, I think, you know, there, as stated from staff on condition A or criteria A, you know, there could be another spot you could put this home, but again, you know, how much land disturbance is gonna be involved, and I just think that where it's proposed, it's just a better site, and, you know, just will affect the land a lot less, and so I think it just makes sense to approve it.
Okay, so so we have a motion to approve. All in favor, raise your right hand.
I'm as close as I can get. My case tonight is Z23-12V. It's a accessory structure location variance in the Lake Wiley overlay. The applicants are James and Dawn Kibler, and their property location, they live and they are requesting the variance on 6254 North Road. The zoning there is RMX 10, and they are within the Lake Wiley overlay. They also are a lakefront property. Here is the vicinity map of the property. You can see it's outlined in red here. They have the home back from the Lake Wiley buffer. They have their home and a detached garage with a lawn area in front and some trees at the road. That's Lake Wiley to the right, Concord Road to the top right, and the Duke property is right across the street there. It's before the bridge out Concord Road. Go through the zoning map here. You can tell the neighborhood here is all RMX 10. This is the Glades at Windswept Cove. There's another Windswept Cove section directly to the left, to the west of it. And here's the site plan for the proposed detached structure. It would be a detached garage with an accessory dwelling unit. That was the permit that was submitted. As you can see here, it's in the front. It's got 120 feet back from the right-of-way of North Road. So it is set back from the road. The lot itself is 2.27 acres. They do have plenty of acreage. It's just being lakefront, they are required to meet the Lake Wiley overlay standards. We'll go through the variance approval criteria here. The subject parcel contains 2.27 acres with a regular shape. The existing home is placed well outside the Lake Wiley 50-foot buffer, leaving adequate room to the south and the east of the property for a place to put another garage structure. Therefore, staff finds proposed variance does not meet this criteria. Adjacent, yes, sir.
Can you go back one slide? Do y'all have that noise back there?
No,
Okay,
This is a cleaned up version.
gotcha, gotcha.
it's new.
I did
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I did some art, getting it clearer to see. Conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. Adjacent lakefront lots within the subdivision comply with the Lake Wiley overlay standard. The homes have appropriately placed garages, or the garage itself is attached to the home, and therefore staff finds the proposed variance does not meet this standard. For C, the applicant has the option to attach the garage to the existing home, negating the need for a variance. In addition, there is adequate room on the southern and eastern portion of the parcel to meet setback requirements and stay out of the Lake Wiley 50-foot buffer. Therefore, the application of this section of the code would not unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property, and staff finds proposed variance does not meet this criteria. And then neighboring properties on North Road comply with the Lake Wiley overlay standard for garage placement or attachment. Therefore, should the applicant be granted the requested variance, the character of the district will be significantly changed. Therefore, staff finds proposed variance does not meet this criteria. So as staff finds the proposed variance does not meet all four criteria for an unnecessary hardship, staff recommends denial of the requested variance. And I should add, we have received 7 total emails, including the one that was in your packet, against the variance.
So can you go back to C?
Which-
The 4 points you made, C, next page, there you go. So you make the point that if the applicant had chose to attach this structure to the existing home, there's no variance.
Correct.
What about attaching it to the existing garage?
No variance.
Still no variance?
They could expand the
Even though
garage.
the existing garage is technically in front of the home?
That is a good point. The garage is existing, so actually, no, we would not have approved expanding the garage in that manner. They could add a second floor, but they wouldn't be able to increase the footprint of the second garage.
Okay, my question is in the packet, they said no HOA, and then you are asking for an HOA, and my understanding is there is an HOA. So where are we with getting approval for that? Because typically, we usually have that letter in our packet when we,
Right.
you know.
Planning and zoning has gotten out of the HOA business. It's a civil matter, so unless it's a use, we do not ask for HOA letters anymore.
Okay.
Only if it's a structure, we don't ask. At that point, it's a civil matter. In this case, once the variance came through, we did have various people in the neighborhood reach out and state that there were covenants and restrictions on the property and provided us with that information. The applicant, I know, has contacted a lawyer about the covenants because there's some dispute. But again, that is outside our purview. We're
Okay.
only here for the variance.
Okay, hence your condition, right?
So on page 26, I know you don't have in front of you, but the applicant did a number of calculations specifically in relation to the size of the proposed building in relation to the existing home. Does any of that actually apply in this case because of the size of the lot?
Yes, it's because it's lake frontage. As soon as you get lakefront parcel, everything in the Lake Wiley overlay triggers.
So the size and proportion section applies.
Yes,
Have you seen his calculations? And
I did, and I double checked. I went back on tax records to see, and he does have, with the addition of this garage, I believe he has an extra 200 square feet or so that he could use.
so I noticed in the calculation that for proportion-wise, they're adding in the existing detached garage. I didn't think that went into the calculation on the positive side. I thought it went in on the negative side, if you kind of know what I'm saying.
If we didn't, are you saying not counting the existing attached?
So, yeah, I thought the existing detached could be considered as a part of the proportion of what he was totally allowed to have.
Yes,
And what they're doing is they're counting it in on the
The
total
house.
portion of what already exists compared to what they want to build.
so I made sure I double checked the calculation of the footprint of the home, and then I calculated the footprint of the existing garage and the footprint of the proposed garage, and minus those against, and they still had 200 square feet allowed.
Okay.
Lots of math.
So even if the calculation was incorrect, the correct calculation still allows.
Correct.
So the only letter, or email that we got, the guy really, whoever it is, didn't really say why he was against it. He just said they already have one large detached, two-car garage, and they shouldn't need another one. What
And-
did the other people say?
Basically that everybody else has conformed to the covenants of the property, that this would be outside the norm for the subdivision. And it was 7 separate emails. He actually followed up on that email after the packets had been done to have much more comprehensive reason why. Do you have any other questions for staff?
I do. So the only way that they could build this is to attach it to the current residence,
Correct.
or move it,
Or move it.
Or, correct.
and move it to where?
Either basically kind of between the curve of the property line and the house.
Okay, that's what
So it'd
I
be
was
kinda-
making
As long
sure.
as it stays
Yeah,
out of the
but, so between the existing structure and house.
Correct.
And just to chime in real quick, I don't see why they could not add on to the backside of that existing detached garage going, yes, it does sit in front of the house and it wouldn't be approved today, but moving back, that would be okay.
The existing structure.
Yes, so if they attached on some square footage to, like, closer to where, like, on the buffer side. Yeah, there you go.
So they can expand the footprint towards the buffer side.
Yes, because they couldn't expand it like going towards the road because
Right.
that would be increasing the nonconformity, but they could go the other way.
Gotcha.
But how would they access it if they added it to the existing structure?
They have a concrete driveway that runs, the gray is the concrete driveway.
Okay.
here, I'll go back to the,
It looked to me like that would, if you draw that line, it looks like it would run right into the property line, but I don't know, maybe that property line's not accurate.
So do you have the pointer?
would be, if they did it, it'd be built back in here. And the applicants are here as well as some of the neighbors.
Thank you.
Okay.
Would the applicant please come forward?
It's just the little arrows and the green is the laser, if you want to.
Okay, James and Dawn Kibler, 6254 North Road, York, South Carolina.
The project is 6252
Well,
North Road.
okay. So initially, we started this in 2020, the very first, actually the end of 2019, and then COVID hit. So at that point, this ordinance wasn't set, the Lake Wiley thing that, you know, we
Overlay.
could have probably built at that location, but then they put that in 2022, they put it into existence. So, and actuality, you know, right now is we started looking at it again because the fact that labor and materials since COVID are accessible, you know, where it wasn't back before 2022. We were still having a hard time. So and we didn't even realize that this had changed until we came to apply for the permit, that this had changed, the ordinance had changed. So we need the extra garage, you know, to basically keep our lawn equipment, jet ski trailers, so they're not outside cluttering up the property in the elements, and it's not making the property or the community look trashy with your equipment and everything sitting outside. We try to keep everything neat and tidy. And the garage will basically be uniform with the existing house and the detached garage. We're making exactly the same style, the same brick and everything. So it is not going to be a deterrent to the neighborhood. It's going to, in fact, to me, it will look exactly like ours. And in fact, where it's placed, where we want to place it, there's a lot of wooded area there. So it'll actually sit back in the wooded area where you won't see it from North Road, basically. And, you know, I mean, it's pretty much going to be secluded in that area. And so I don't feel it has a negative impact on the neighborhood at all. There is another, the location that they're asking us to put it in is in the back part of the property. And if we put it there, as you can see, that portion is more narrow than the front part is. And where we would have to put it is back almost in front of our neighbor's property or very close to. As far as we've measured, we've determined if we had to do that, how it would go, where it would be placed, and it would be right in his front, yard there. So we're trying to work with the community and make sure that we're not making the neighbors upset or, any, ill feelings or anything. We're trying to work within the community, and it would just be great if we could have this location of,
If you're trying to work with the community, why haven't you been to the HOA yet?
we don't have an HOA.
We don't have an HOA.
There's only a covenant, which is why we've contacted an attorney, because the covenants are not very well written. And the covenants were done in 2007. There has never been an HOA on our property.
So you're saying that there's just too much ambiguity in the covenant, and you're willing to risk that?
Too much what? I'm sorry?
There's too much ambiguity in the covenants, and you're willing to risk that? Because in our packet, it says that the covenants state that you can only have one detached building on the lot.
Does it state one detached?
Yeah.
Well, I guess the way the covenants are written, yes, they aren't very, they did not look,
And that's where we are willing to make concessions because of the detached garage in the front, the red dot. We are willing to make that a three-car garage with
just storage.
a storage in the top, basically.
So in our packet, it says that it's a garage with an ADU above it, accessory dwelling unit.
That's what we originally put in,
Right.
yes.
So
But we're-
you're,
But we're willing to make a concession because of the location of the back of the property and where this current location is that we would like to put in, make a second floor,
And just make it for
make it
storage,
storage.
not
We-
a
we have-
dwelling like we
We
applied.
have equipment, stuff, exercise equipment that we would like to
We could
put
just
up
do
there
that and use
and
that as a-
utilize, but use it as a storage area.
Do have a,
And
Point
I
of
would like to say one other thing. The detached garage that's originally now, the terrain is such that the level just drops off.
Right, it would be very
Probably
difficult.
15, 20 feet drops off. To put it further back would impact the same structure with the exercise or utility equipment on the second floor would put a bad location in the current resident that lives next door. That would place that property would be right in front of their house.
so,
Building.
but what you just said is in relation to having it as a separate detached structure farther back. What
Right.
about attaching to the existing
If we
garage?
tried to attach it to the existing one, what we're saying is the terrain goes down like this. So to attach it to the backside, which they call the backside, would mean that you've got to build that up, and it would be,
It would drop down 15 feet
right.
to the level ground, which again puts it just around where that curve is in the driveway on.
I mean, we've
Exit
thought
A.
about this a lot, and that is our best location for it.
And the location now with the red spot is covered with trees. It shows, to me, it shows a better location versus further down, but that's, you know, you all will make that decision, one way or the other.
one point of clarification. When you stepped to the podium, you gave two addresses.
Well, our address
know
is
what that-
6254, our address.
Is
But
that the
what we wanted, I'm sorry,
primary residence?
primary
Yes.
residence.
So why would the,
They were
Well,
saying we might need
The
a
way
new
it's-
address.
The way it's listed, it's 6252 North Road,
Yeah,
because it's a residence, well, that's what we applied for, was a residence, which indicates that we have to have a separate address.
yeah, we didn't quite understand that either, but that's what we
But
were
that's the
told.
way it is.
I believe the second address was added at the building permit phase when because this came initially in as a building permit, and then staff turned it down, and so at that point, the address was created.
so one property is not anything to do with the
That's
property.
correct, it's one property.
So have you considered, once you found out about the overlay and had to rethink all this, did you ever consider adding a second level to the already detached garage? And is that a possibility?
But it doesn't give us the room for the lawn equipment and stuff like that, just to put something to add on to the top. Our main reason is
sorry,
for
I
the
can't-
garage. Our main reason is for the garage, not the upper part, the garage. We need the garage space for,
My wife
Come on.
says I have too many toys.
Okay.
Okay, but, I mean, we're here,
and I would like to have a space for me, you know?
Okay, so you currently have an attached garage, correct?
Yes,
Is that a three-car attached,
Yes,
two-car?
three-
Okay, so
three-car
I'm
gar-
assuming you put your cars in there?
Yes.
Okay,
well,
okay. And I'm just, maybe not, I
I-
don't know.
Another
So
thing.
then you have
Not
a,
enough, not enough cars.
okay, well, I'm just trying to,
Yeah,
I
right.
understand.
figure this out. So you have an attached car garage, a detached car garage, and you want another one because you want something to put all your equipment in, implements, whatever.
Yes.
Okay. And so, right now, you would not consider an upstairs because you want the added storage. That's your main goal. Am I
Right,
correct
we
in
want,
that?
basically, we need the garage, not the added storage, just the garage, you know.
Okay.
And just to clarify, so you're saying that there is a 15-foot drop
Yes.
in right here?
Roughly,
Okay.
yes.
But could the building not just step down with the terrain?
I'm sorry, say,
Could the building not step down with the terrain?
yeah, I guess it could, but I'm limited where the driveway comes down and there's a circle there. I'm limited.
You mean his driveway, the neighbor's driveway?
The next door neighbor
Neighbor's driveway, the way it comes down in circles.
comes around, goes around.
It's gonna be very close to where it
That's gonna be very
circles.
close, dropping down. Does that make sense? And I haven't done any type of survey or structural from where the detached garage is currently down that hill.
Down to the lake,
To see
right.
where anything really lines up. It's basically been, for the last, I guess, 3 years, 4 years, it's been in that
Working with
wooded
that
area.
structure, yeah.
That's where, it's off the driveway, it's clear, it's wooded area, and it's,
How long have you been,
I'm sorry?
how long have you been in this house? Just out of
We
curiosity.
bought the house in 2006, we didn't build
Okay.
The
until
property.
2013. We moved in 2013.
13,
13?
Yeah,
10 years.
10 years. But we've owned it since 2010, or
Gotcha.
2006, I'm sorry.
Right, correct, thank you.
I know that you said you didn't have an HOA, but it says that it must be approved by Architectural Control Committee.
They don't have one.
You don't have
There is-
one?
there
No.
is not
We've been
one.
told by residents, there's no architectural committee, there's nobody even withholding the covenants.
We,
Okay.
well, initially, back in 2006, when we bought, we were part of Windswept Cove, which is off of 274. It was later, somewhere around 2006 or 2009, it was voted, that Windswept Cove voted us out of what would be.
Of their HOA.
Of their HOA.
And we never developed
and
one with
They
them
never developed one in the
for the Glades.
current.
So you don't have to get it approved by anybody as far as,
Well, we've been
No.
asking that question.
Yeah, we've asked and everybody tells us there's no architectural committee here.
Right.
But if we were, and I'm not saying we would, but if we were to approve this, you guys still have a restricted covenant battle going on.
In the dual
In the
Well,
dwelling,
dwelling, is that what you're talking
No,
about?
no, the covenants and restrictions. Did you, I think you stated earlier, you had a lawyer working on that?
I started, yes.
Yes, we
and
have.
then This all came up like
Just
in the last
recently.
week. So we've kind of put it on hold from the lawyer side of it. We've talked to a lawyer, but we've put it on hold at this point. Until we kind of find out where our location is, and then
right.
we'll move
Then
forward.
we'll go for
you know,
that.
Whatever that is.
So when you built your house, prior to 2013, prior to when you moved, so you did not have to go through any kind of architectural or anything go before with your
We
plans of
were-
your house or anything?
Just,
We were told the square footage.
right, that was it.
That was it.
Okay.
And don't ask me what the numbers are. They're like 2,100
It's
square
all right.
foot.
I won't. I won't.
Okay.
Any further questions?
so your neighbor to the north, you see in this picture, has a small, looks like about half the size of your attached garage. Looks
Of
like
the
a little
north?
accessory
The
building
north
there.
side?
He has a
Yeah.
shed. Are you
It-
talking about
it
the
actually
shed?
There's a
appears
shed
to be
there.
the only accessory structure that is compliant with this new regulation. What is that used for?
Well, I know the son has a motorcycle in there. I don't know what else is in there.
Okay, thank you.
Done?
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone that would like to speak for? Okay, do we have anyone who would like to speak against?
He just said against,
I said against.
in opposition.
Hi, my name is Edward Lakowski. We're at 6244 North Road, which that is my property line, you know, where he wants to build, where the circle is. The covenants, which I don't know if they're good or not, when we bought our property, we bought it from an owner that had been there for 50 years, and then we bought more property through Crescent. So our property was never involved with Windswept Cove. So I am just totally separate from that. But the covenants state there's only one residence and one other building allowed. And when this first came up, I mean, they requested a building permit for a 2 or 3 car garage with a residence above it. So, you know, now they're saying they want to, you know, can make concessions or whatever, but it's still outside the covenants to me. And if you pull the other picture up that showed the drawings, okay, the existing garage right there by the circle, that is 10 foot off the property line right there. So if he extends towards the lake, he's going to run, you know, past, you know, the property line, or, you know, I don't know what the property line, you know, how close you can be with a, you know, structure. Is it 10 feet? I mean, I don't know what the zoning is. So, but that building is 10 feet off the property line now. So, you know, I put everything in writing. It's going to affect me more than anybody. I mean, but it's against the covenants, and I just, you know, what can I say? I mean, the story's changed for what he wants to build, so.
So just to confirm, so your house, you don't have to abide by the covenants, is what you're saying, because you're not part of Windswept?
Correct.
Okay. But as
We
far as,
bought the property in 95,
okay,
and it was from St. Clair.
okay,
And then when this development started to get built, I had in writing with Crescent that I wanted to purchase more property. So they approached me before the developers took control, and I bought more property at that time. So I had 1 acre lot, and then I bought another 1.8 or 9 acres on top of that. Now, that driveway, I mean, was supposed to be a road, but the developers said they were not going to develop it, and I was purchasing the property next to it. So Crescent and those developers agreed to take that off the books as a road. It's deeded to me, it's off the books, and that's why that little circle is there, because it was supposed to be a cul-de-sac. But like I said, it's all off the books. I mean, y'all have records, y'all can look at it. But that had to be, you know, agreed by the, you know, the developers and Crescent. But we bought it all through Crescent, so.
so since you've been there, you know, quite a bit longer, when do you think the covenants went into effect? When Crescent sold it, is that to the developer? Is that when the
Yes.
covenants became, and like what time frame is that? If you can recall. You said 90, you were there since 95, right?
Yeah,
And they said they bought
95, and yes, we bought not the property in 95, the original property, and then I think the other was bought in maybe 99,
Okay.
98.
Okay, and that's kind of when the,
The developers started taking over and developing the old Windswept Cove and everything.
okay, thank you.
So,
Okay,
If I remember correctly, you said that the existing garage, or detached garage, is 10 feet from the property line, correct?
correct.
Well, proportionally, that doesn't look right on the red one, the proposed one, that says 40 feet.
Correct.
So anyway, I'm just trying to clear that up. It looks more like maybe 15 feet.
I mean, I don't know, they haven't got the building marked off.
Okay.
You know, nothing's been surveyed over there, but that detached garage is 10 feet off my property line.
Okay.
This is the site plan that was submitted for the building permit, and it's not gonna be completely to scale.
So, the existing garage that's there, would you have a problem if, I understand that it would have to be a very awkwardly shaped building to stay out of the setbacks, but if they expanded that to get what they wanted, would you have a problem with that? Because they stated that you would be looking directly at that.
I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place no matter what happens. But, I mean, if you extend that building farther towards the lake, you know, it's already 10 feet off the property line, so you can't go very far that way.
Well, I mean, it looks to me like, you know, it doesn't, it maybe could be shaped like the house. It doesn't have to necessarily be a square building. I mean, it could,
Angle?
yeah, and, so I mean, would you be
I mean-
fine with that, or?
Well, you know, if it's attached, I mean, but the covenants say they've already have one detached building.
No, that's what I'm saying, that,
Yeah.
if
I mean-
they added on to it and expanded, because the applicant other stated that would be a big eyesore to you, so I'm just trying to understand it from your point of view. I'm not
Right.
standing on the property looking at it.
Well, that, you're talking about one detached building, that's where it says in here that, all other accessory structures must be approved by the architect committee, which
I'm sorry, I can't,
says all other accessory structures must be approved by the architectural control committee. But he said that doesn't exist, so does that really still hold him to one structure?
I don't know.
Who knows?
Let me
Okay.
follow up on Tony's question and maybe make it a little bit simpler. So assuming that they can meet all the other requirements, setbacks, building code, whatever. From your standpoint, would you rather see something next to the existing garage towards the lake, if it's gonna be one of two places, or where they're showing the red structure to be, which, or do you not even care?
I don't know.
Okay.
Like I said, you know, the structure would have to be pretty funky shape to get it away from.
Let's just say they can.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I could
yeah.
make something
Hypothetically,
happen.
yeah.
Okay, just curious.
But if they added on to either existing structure, the house or the detached garage, they couldn't be stopped. They don't need a variance from the county, and they would comply with the covenants. So
Right.
that's just by right addition.
The only thing that I was trying to ask out of that is that the applicant stated that would be kind of an eyesore to you. And so I'm asking from your point of view, what is your opinion of that?
We're putting you on the spot.
I agree.
And that's fine, you don't have to
If I
answer
were you,
that.
I would rather it be where they're proposing it. I mean, that's just me. I don't know.
Or you just not wanting to have anything at all? I'm just trying to
You
understand.
know,
You don't have to
you know,
answer
it's
that.
gonna affect me one way or another.
Right.
I mean, you know, so, I mean, there's other people that have gotten involved with this that are, you know, interested in saying their piece. I mean, but, I mean, unfortunately, y'all have to make the decision, so. But, you know, if they first said they wanted to build a residence, okay, so they're gonna build something, and if they have water, sewer, power, what's to stop them from having another residence?
Well, that would be a code issue.
County code would stop them from.
I'm sorry?
If they have a detached garage, you just can't move people in it. It's, you know, county code would prevent someone from just
Okay.
building a building and having someone move in.
All right,
All right, any further questions?
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir.
thank you. And like I said, I did send a letter information also. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, to answer your, I'm Cindy Vitale, 5312 Johnson's Barn Road, which is kind of opposite Ed Lukowski's driveway. So I'm across the way. The covenant was, from my understanding, what I have here, which is the covenant, is dated the 3rd day of June, 2002. When we built our house, it was 2015, when it was completed. And when we were building, it was made clear to us, because of this covenant, that one single-family dwelling and one detached building or garage to house no less than 2 vehicles. So it had to be a 2-car garage or more, built separate. The people across the street that want to build this do have 3 cars, garage attached. Then they have 2 cars, garage separate. That's 5 vehicles. I don't know how many vehicles they have, but I don't understand why, if you want to make just storage and not do the dwelling above, which they originally said, that then, why would you not put a temporary structure like a shed? If all you want to do is put lawnmowers in there, and I have never seen any kind of garden or lawn equipment strewn all over their yard, that would be an eyesore to us. So I just don't quite know that the plan they're presenting today is the actual plan, and if I assume it's not, which I don't, my biggest concern is, I come from New York, and many times variances were given there where 1-family homes existed, and the next thing you knew, it was 2 families were allowed there. Then it was 3. And before we knew it, there were condos, there were apartment buildings. I moved to get away from that. I bought and spent good money for my home so that I could be in this residential, single-family, owner-occupied neighborhood. And I don't think it's fair, and I think it opens a can of worms, that even if they don't want to do it now, if that structure is there with space above it for storage, what stops the next person who someday buys that and says, oh, well, I'll put a couple of tenants up there and, they can pay my mortgage. So I think we never enforced the covenant as far as getting a lawyer and making sure everybody's strict to the covenant, but everyone in our neighborhood has tried their best to keep it what it's meant to be, a single-family dwelling with a garage. And I think that should be respected. Okay? Thank you.
Anyone have- Anyone else to speak against? Okay, if the applicant would like to come back up for a closing comment, you may.
Yes.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it is, the covenants are not being upheld in the community at all within the Blaze of Winsett Code. If they read every single detail in the covenants, we have a lot of violations in our neighborhood. So to put that on us, that this covenant should be upheld is, and the fact that they don't think we need another garage, well, each family has their own needs and wants, So, and again, I don't feel that this building will deter from the neighborhood. For one thing, it's not going to be seen very well from the community, And again, it's going to be in compliance with, it's going to look exactly like what we have right now. We're not going to make, like she's saying, put a shed on there or whatever. Well, that's tacky looking. That doesn't make the neighborhood look great, just placing a shed. You know, to me, a building structure that looks exactly the same as what you've got adds value, makes it look better. And that's just my reasoning behind it.
Pictures were provided of the structure of the house. 4 sides,
I
tall
didn't see
brick.
that. And that's basically what we're going to do with this garage. It's going to
Yeah.
be the
I
same.
mean, that's the same thing. It's going to add value to the property, to the community too, but
Well, I understand what the lady from New York means as far as renting out.
But that's
That's not us.
against the
we're-
York
we're
County,
from-
isn't it?
We're from Maryland
I understand.
originally.
Would y'all be willing to not have that residential part above it?
Right, we said we'd be
Yeah, I said,
happy not to.
as a reference to what was said, we would be willing to make it a utility area. We have exercise equipment
Only,
and,
So, and I'm gonna ask this, and you don't have to, you don't have to do this, but this is just, I'm struggling with the restricted covenant deal. So, this is just my suggestion.
okay.
Or my question. Would you consider deferring this until after you can come back to us with a firm decision on what the restricted covenants say or what they don't say? Or whether they've been broken enough to not be, any good anymore? If we're to make a decision, and I'm sure y'all been explaining this, and I don't know how this board would vote tonight, but if you were to be denied, you couldn't come back for a year,
Well,
unless you make significant changes.
but
Right. Wait.
regardless of the, whatever covenant that may, we still have the Lake Wiley overlay, right?
You're still gonna
Yeah,
have to
they're-
come back and fight the same fight, but just for me, and like I said, this is just me, you don't have to do this. I'm really struggling with the covenants. I mean, cause we can argue this all day and it may go one way or it may go another, but at the end of the day, if you still have a restrictive covenant,
My
this-
question is, do we have to wait a year?
no, sir, you can, as soon as staff can get you back on our packet, I mean, I don't think it could be next month, but it can be, if you can get an answer. it
So
may
we get
be
our
60
attorney
days.
to read over the covenants and make
Right.
sure everything we're in compliance with, that
As
it
long as we
doesn't.
don't have to wait another year is my
Yeah,
concern.
and-
That was my question.
Do you wanna pipe in?
Staff can enlighten us on this part. If he were to defer and come back with, and I don't know how long it's gonna take an attorney to tell us whether those restricted covenants are good, they're not good,
Right.
whatever they are, but
I mean, you can certainly make that suggestion to the applicant. This one's a little tricky because the covenants sort of muddy the water. But I want to be really clear about this. That's a civil matter. So let's say, for example, let's play this out. So if you were to go ahead and approve the variance now, they'd need to get their building permit, and if they constructed it, and if the neighbors did not like it, then that would be a civil matter in which they would sue one another over something like that. It sounds like that is the risk that they are willing to take.
But do we not still have the Lake Wiley overlay?
Yes, so that would be the
I mean, so that's-
variance.
That's still,
And let me clarify, like you may come back, you may ask to defer and bring us back some solidity from an attorney, and it still may get denied. I mean, I don't wanna
Give 'em
lead
hope.
you on in that direction, but, for myself personally, it would provide some clarity. That's all I was asking.
I was gonna say, well, even if they did get an attorney to bring it back, if you think about it, the opposition could hire their own attorney and say they interpreted this wrong, and then it ends up in court and that sort of thing. So that's why it's hard not to think about the covenants, but that's really not for our purview or the board's purview.
Okay. Any further questions?
Disregard my previous statement.
Sorry, what?
I said disregard my previous statement.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to deny.
I'll second.
I'll say the reasoning why is I don't believe it fits the 4 criteria. And while it may not be a perfect or desired scenario, there is an opportunity and a method to make a desired addition that conforms to county code without needing a variance. And while it's a sidebar, wouldn't have any effect on any covenants either. I think in this case, you have to add it either to the garage or you have to add it to the existing home.
And I think it's hard to disregard item B in the criteria because, you know, we've got neighbors' letters, we've got two neighbors that came forth. You know, they might not think it's a detriment, but obviously the people that, you know, live in proximity believe differently, and there is a way around it without, you know, being able to build it by right without having to get a variance, and I just think it just doesn't meet the 4 criteria, especially for me, number D.
Any further discussion? Okay, so we have a motion to deny the application. All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All those against the motion? Motion fails. Or motion? Is
Is approved to
approved,
deny,
is
yeah.
to deny. Yeah, we can do that. You have to. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion, we take a 5-minute break for the next
Second?
applicant.
All those approved? You got 5 minutes. If I may, before we get started with this case, got a lot of people here. I would appreciate all your input, all your thoughts. We will have to have a time limit of 5 minutes when we get to the for and against. Okay, so we'll give you 5 minutes per person. I don't know, do we have the signs anymore? The countdown? Yeah. Yeah, so you'll see like a 1 minute when you've got a minute left. A lot of people here. If you could please, when you come forward, try not to just give us new information. We all know everybody's passionate, but we also have 7:30 and we'd like to see our families sometime tonight. So we'll give you 5 minutes. Please try to add new information if you can. If you actually assign one spokesman for a group of people, we'll actually have that person 10 minutes. Okay. The applicant, when you do your rebuttal, I believe you get 5 minutes as well. So just try to keep this moving and let everybody speak who wants to speak. So if we could have staff come up.
Thank you. And now the item everybody's been waiting for, case Z2310SE. This is, the owner applicant is, or the applicant is Humane Society of York County. The property is on Holbrook Road in Fort Mill, in a rural development district, and they're looking for a commercial kennel. The site is approximately a quarter mile from Fort Mill Parkway. Holbrook Road continues approximately 2 miles and ends in a dead end. They're seeking to operate a commercial kennel to facilitate the adoption of unhoused animals in the local area. The proposed site will support a 4,000 square foot intake building, an 8,000 square foot indoor kennel, and a 5,000 square foot outdoor kennel. Expected hours of operations between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. on weekdays, while it may be open to 6 p.m. on a Friday. And the facility is to be closed at least 1 day a week. The site is just over 11 acres on this undeveloped land. The project sketch shows the improvements within the cleared area of the existing property. I didn't see any plans to remove trees. The surrounding properties are generally larger lots with low-density residential. Properties to the south include a new larger subdivision that borders the project with forested open space. A generous tree buffer exists about 125 feet at the narrowest between the proposed development and the borders to the south. This picture kind of shows that buffer pretty well. And then there's another buffer again before the subdivision. Across the street to the north lies a single home with a vast acreage. And the proposed kennel is located in excess of 100 feet from all the lot lines. And I mentioned that because that doesn't kick in necessarily the requirement to put up a sound barrier. If they were closer than 100 feet, they would be required to put up an acoustical sound barrier from any outdoor runs or any outdoor kennels. So when I wrote the staff report, I talked to maybe a handful of people, certainly not all the people behind me, and it was pretty mixed. I didn't see a great outpouring of people against the project, or some for it, some neutral, a few against, and their concerns were things about the looks of the facility, noise it might generate, and other effects on the neighborhood. I went out there, and this is a picture of the site looking east, and to the right would be the Massey subdivision, and further to the east would be the other neighboring lots. And this is kind of a look on site back towards Holbrook. So again, we look at the approval criteria. We have several things to judge that would give you information whether to approve it or deny it. One is the adequacy of the water and sewer facilities, and proposed developments on a well and septic, and 11-acre site should adequately provide and serve the proposal. The next one is the impact on existing public services and public facilities, including but not limited to education, recreation, transportation, and water and sewer facilities for the proposed use. Out of this, we talked about water and sewer there in the first one. They looked at the traffic, and they did a Tier 1 traffic impact analysis was provided and approved by the transportation planning. It was determined that they're expected to generate at most 175 two-way trips per day, which doesn't kick them over the limit into mitigation. And the other thing they look at is peak traffic hours. And with their hours of operation, they're not expected to generate any traffic during the AM peak hours. And the facility would cease operation around 4 p.m., which is the top of the PM peak, which would be 4 to 6. And we look at the compatibility of with the surrounding uses. We have some property zone RUD with some RSF40 and residential Fort Mill subdivision to the south. As such, the existing properties are mostly low density and are a mix of single-family homes, agricultural uses, and undeveloped land till you get to the Fort Mill subdivision behind it, which has a distance and a buffer between it. The closest is probably about 500 feet away. So again, I mentioned 100 feet away from the outdoor kennel, and that doesn't necessarily require any acoustic fencing, but that could be something that you might want to consider if you find that might be an issue. Otherwise, we didn't expect an undue negative impact. It's worth noting, the other thing was people mentioned about the looks of the site, the buffers and landscaping and non-residential building design would all have to be complied with, along with stormwater management. These things will be addressed through the site review plan at such time they'd be developing. So we would, the staff recommends that approval of this special exception with the commercial kennel as provided in analysis of the report. And we would suggest that no disturbance of the tree area to the south and east portion of the lot to keep the buffer in there. And again, I made a suggestion as possible the acoustic fence could help with the noise.
So, under what zoning is kennels allowed? AGR or
RUD, the other
without a variance?
industrial type stuff, zoning.
Okay.
I have to look maybe to LI or the code in front of me, but that would be where you would get without it.
Okay. Did
Without a
that
special
change with the recode or not? Do you know? Are you aware?
I would have to ask somebody who's familiar with recode.
So on page 42,
Yeah.
there is a statement, says, additionally, the site is required to adhere to noise performance standards found in 155.496, and animals are required to be housed indoors overnight.
Yes.
So two questions about that sentence. Can you expound on noise performance standards that are found in 155.496?
That has the acoustic requirement for acoustic barriers past, if you're closer than 100 foot to the lot line, and does have the animals in overnight. That's basically I believe the whole gist of it.
That's all that's in 155.496 is the acoustic barrier?
Yeah.
So what is the definition of housed indoors overnight? Is that sunset to sunrise?
Yeah, I would have to assume that. I don't have any specific definition of that, but I would, assured with this facility, I suppose once they're off-site, they would definitely not leave them out. And so they close at 4, so if there's nobody there, we could ask the applicant about their operating procedures, but definitely at night. We also have, the noise ordinance would apply to the site. It's a rather kind of complicated requirement based on the sound frequency and the decibels of the specific frequency. But it would be measured at the lot line, and they wouldn't be able to, exceed that. So if they did make a lot of noise, then they would have to figure out how to deal with it or get cited. If there are no more questions, then the applicant had a presentation for you.
Hi. We saw the land on the overhead, and we all got excited because it's a dream come true. It truly is the promised land for us. I'm Mary Beth Knapp. I represent the Humane Society of York County. I'm a board member, president of the board, and I'll explain some of the differences that we have in a few minutes. I'm an animal lover, and I'm a
If you could-
adopter. Yes?
I do need your address.
Huh?
I do need your address.
Oh, yes. My personal or the Humane Society? 8177 Regent Parkway, Suite 103, Fort Mill.
Okay.
That's the Humane Society.
Thank you.
And I'm also an animal advocate, obviously. And we are so grateful to talk to you about this land because it is really a terrific source for us. I want to just tell you who we are. So many people, that commercial kennel tag is awful at best. So, I know it's more canned, but as the rescue, what we do. So we're in an independent nonprofit, no-kill rescue. We are currently at that address I just noted. We welcome you to stop by, see it, experience it, to understand. There are dogs and cats on site, so yes, there are barking. But we did provide a few videos just to show the noise levels from the outside, the inside, and you'd be amazingly surprised on how quiet it can be with the numbers we have inside the facility. We obviously are represented here by the yellow t-shirts and the red t-shirts. I'm wearing my Possibility thrift shop shirt because that's where I came from today working, and all these folks are from the rescue. They are either cat socializers, dog walkers, you name it. We have wonderful supporters. We talked about, there's 5 of us on the board. There's a staff of about 14 currently. We have volunteers on site every day, approximately 10 throughout the day. And just to clarify, our hours we start at 8 a.m. We close at 4 p.m. On Fridays, we're open till 6 p.m. So just to clarify, we are there at 8 a.m. That would be a very long time to have any animals contained in their space. Being independent, what does that mean? That basically means we have no trickle-down effect from any other humane society. So we are responsible for making our own money. We do some grants, but they're inconsistent. We have process and procedures in place, which we independently have defined, which was a wonderful, wonderful independence. We have adoption fees, and we have some policies. We rely really heavily on our donors, our generous local businesses, our volunteers, and our other independent donors to help us do what we do every day. What we do, we have been around for about 50 years. We started in 1976. I was not there, even though I'm over 50, but I was not there. We've had a facility for 24 years. In our current facility for 12, we are renting, and we are renting a strip mall effect. So I think that gives people a different view of what we do or what we look like. It is only because we have done with what we have been given, and we make it work. So our hopes are so much bigger than what we have today. We have a huge, great community, and obviously Fort Mill has been growing by leaps and bounds, especially in the past few years. So our services have been growing by leaps and bounds. The things we do for people. We don't just adopt out animals and other things associated to that. We also have community services like Kit Kat Cupboard Up. It's a pet food pantry for people who get on hard times and they can't feed their pet. Well, we want that pet to stay in their home because that's the best for the pet in most situations, and therefore will help where that's needed. We have Helping Hands, where we help emergency vet care. We offer financial assistance working with our pet. We have so many different things. We have a low-cost spay-and-neuter program where we subsidize so that we can stop the insanity of the number of pets that are walking our streets. So we take in temporary fur babies, we get them up to date on shots, we vaccinate them, we spay-neuter them. All of our adoptable pets are these pets, and we microchip them and test them. We have been very proud to be a part of a fear-free training, so I'll have someone talk about that in a minute because it really does help as far as the well-being of the pets, which result in a better behavior of the pets. We create an environment where the pets can thrive while they wait for their people to show, and our number one priority is safety. Safety of our staff, safety of our volunteers, of our dogs, cats, and of the public. Being around for so long, we have learned from a lot of different things, and we make changes accordingly, and we adjust for the benefit of our mission. Biggest impact is routine and schedule, as I said before, and I'd love if you would allow me to just hand out a handout to the folks of our schedule, just to see when the animals get fed, the specifics about our processes specifically for our dogs, so you understand how that works. Is that okay? Thank you so much. While she's doing that, one of my add-ins from this was, there may be some misunderstandings about us, and I just wanted to say, people might think we allow our 40-plus dogs to just go out at one time and make havoc at any given time in the yards, that they're left to bark incessantly, unsupervised, that our volunteers will walk our rescue dogs in their adjacent neighborhoods. Today, because of our setup, we do, but we have a relationship with the Morning Star Church where we can walk around the lake, and it's a wonderful relationship. So we do today. That is not the intent in this land. The tree buffer is such a beautiful opportunity to have walks and paths and valleys for the dogs to be walked and enjoyed playtime and wellness time. We also, thank you so much. Let's see. Oh, another concern is that dogs may be dropped off and left overnight. That we have procedures and processes in place to handle that. And that is abandonment, and at the York County level, that is an animal control offense. So they take care of that. Our operations, so we are well defined in our operations. Staff put dogs in yards today by the dog's need. So individually, by group, by play groups, small dog groups, but all supervised. Walking our dogs on the new land, like I said, they will, if there is any open without fencing, which I don't think there will be, but if there is, every dog will be harnessed and leashed at all times. Again, going back to that safety. It doesn't do us any good because our insurance, as a business, we have to be extremely scrutinizing on this point. Owner surrenders and strays, we have process in place, how you do it, what you sign. There's all legal documentations that need to be done, and we do those. Dogs barking. Dogs bark dogs barking, we keep to a minimum as we offer them exercise, companionship, play, and some training, which is in that form that was just sent out. In the past, about a few years ago, maybe 2018, we had a OSHA decimal test done in our big dog room. That was the biggest concern area because there's 24 kennels in there, inside kennels, and the concern was to hearing and the impact to hearing. And I have the documents if you'd like to see them, to our employees and our volunteers. And basically the results were that, I have to get the document very quickly so I give you accurate information.
In the meantime, can we get a copy of that you passed out, please?
Yes, oh gosh, yes. So the results indicate that the sound level readings in the big dog room, so you are in the big dog room. You are not 100 feet away, 200 feet, 400 feet away, you are in the big dog room. Equals 87 dBAs on average. Sound level readings in the small dog room equal 90 dBAs on average. And sound level readings in hallway in the cat room, washroom, and lobby is 71 readings dBA on average. The point there is that the result was basically if you're not sitting in that room for 8 straight hours, there is no impact. If someone feels that there may be, then we would have that conversation, but there is no impact.
Can you give those numbers one more time?
Yes, I'm so sorry, that was really fast. So the big dog room equals 87 dBAs on average. Small dog room, 90 dBAs. Hallway, cat room, washroom, and lobby, 71 dBAs on average. And it goes on to say the calculated 8-hour time weighted average for a dog room attendant in the small dog room is 64 dBAs. And this was done by Helix Health and Safety Consulting, if you'd like to see that. Let's see. So going back and just to summarize this one piece about our operations, the closest lot on the land is 464 feet from the proposed building. So in light of the dog barking, that would be minimal impact. How do we add value to our county? We offer valuable services, as I said before. We have the Kit Kat covered, low-cost spay-neuter, helping hands. We increase the number of pets we offer safe haven to and pulling them off the street. Matter of fact, in the past few years, 30-plus families in the Massey community have been helped by our services, either through adoption or surrenders or even reuniting a pet to an owner. We've been at a constant size for 12 years, overflowing. We have cats, our cats in every cage. We have dogs in our bathrooms, in our office, in our medical room, in our break room, just to manage the growth. So our new space, which we are so excited about, and of course it's all reliant on fundraising. So we'd love to just say for you to support our effort, is more capacity, on-site playing, walking and interactive space. And the value to us is we go from a renter to an owner, and that eliminates the worry of rents skyrocketing, especially in this environment that we live in today. We hope to phase the development, starting, if we're approved, maybe start in 2024 and finish in 27. That's just a really wide effort. We have to hire a shelter designer and the things like that. And of course, make the money. And our biggest goal here is to be an asset to the community, increase our scope of what we can handle, and be a good neighbor. One of the biggest, dealing with animal rescue is one of the top stress occupations that exist. Veterinarians, it's number, I don't know what, of suicides. It really is tough because of the situations you're in. Animals come in emaciated, people are very brash, and situations on treating an innocent is just really hard to handle. So it's very hard to handle. So we don't want to have a disagreement with our neighbors. We want to do whatever we can to make it very conducive for them, for us, for our pets, and the like. We would also like to see our neighbors join us, join the ranks, be a volunteer, be involved. The more you're involved, the more you will fall in love with this organization and join us in the effort of supporting it. Other things that we hope to help is less roaming dogs and cats, the share and responsibility in managing pet overpopulation, humane treatment of animals, making homeless animals available for adoption to the public, offering additional jobs to our area community people and careers, and offering those community support services to expand that. I can't say enough. Fix your animals, please. And then to address some of the neighbors' concerns, and I'm so sorry this is so long, but it's the key piece here is the noise. So we talked about having noise cancellation fencing of some sort. And we've got some references there. There's the chain link fence with weaves through it. There's the privacy fence, and I don't know exactly what the requirements or the limitation is in the county, so that will apply most definitely, but we are considering it most definite. It only does us good to have that barrier there. The woods offer a barrier. There was a condition of the woods, and Will, would you like to speak a little to it? If that's okay, he's our realtor. Can he speak to the wood constraint?
Sure. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Will Jordan, 2207 Old Creek Road, Rock Hill, South Carolina. Yeah, the staff recommended a condition that none of the wooded area be disturbed, and that would pretty much eliminate about 7 acres that might be usable in the future. And we don't think there's really a need for that. Now, obviously, they plan to use a lot of that wood just as it is. However, they will require an engineered septic system, and understand from the folks I've talked to that the soil conditions there are not well suited for septic systems. We don't know how large that drain field's gonna need to be or whatever. Or of course, if they need to maybe expand the building sometime in the future, they may need to clear a little bit of those trees. And what we would be comfortable with, rather than just saying no wooded area, that we will not disturb any of the wooded area within maybe 150 feet.
Double the buffer?
Yeah, which, buffer 75. So we'd recommend maybe that condition be stated as 150 feet from the south and the east property line. And in the event they need to do a little bit of clearing up there on the north end, it was not going to affect anything in our opinion from the neighbors. In the Massey neighborhood to the south, the closest residential lot to the building is 460 some feet. And of course, even further than that to the outdoor kennel. And that's to the rear corner of the closest lot in that neighborhood. And so we're quite a distance from any house in the Massey neighborhood.
And just,
Any questions?
just to reiterate, so that's 150 feet from the south and the east property line? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the staff recommended any,
Disturb
Yeah.
all trees.
no disturbance whatsoever.
Right.
So we're just trying to say, well, we think we'd much prefer it just be from the south, but if it's whatever y'all feel is necessary, but we think 150 feet in the south is well adequate, but we're willing to do both if you think that's necessary. Any question? Thank you.
The second is traffic, which Rick had mentioned. The minimum is something considered, so that's good. We won't add too much to the roads. Aesthetics, the Trinity Ridge community down the road at the end of Holbrook, they are supporting us, and we have their testimonies in a book if you'd like to see that book. But they are saying, we'd like to just see it as a more melding in with nature, not something standing out. Again, going back to that, what you think you think we're going to do is have a strip mall kind of thing. Instead, we fully intend to have a beautiful structure that just complements the area. Sanitation and smell, operational procedures apply. We do clean up regularly. Lights, minimal light exposure. We have security lights. The expectation is after-hour lighting and signage. And signage would have code as far as height and all that we have to follow. Building height, we expect 1 story, and that goes back to us making our own money. We don't want to have to maintain an elevator, and we don't want to have that worry, so that's where we're going with that. Property value impact was another concern. That's really difficult to address, but I can just, the only way I could really think through this was Baxter Village has a dump and recycling within their community, and their property value hasn't taken a dip at all. If anything, it's skyrocketed. And then safety, we intend, and of course this is, we have to go through the whole step of design, but we intend to have segmented yards for levels of dogs. So the fencing will be the safety and containment of those animals. Again, I have to go to code on how high it can be because I'd like a 6-foot privacy fence, but we will go with what we have to do and what we can afford, but also having it be some sort of a noise cancellation just to help our relations be at a maximum. I have Bethany Clark, who's our volunteer coordinator, who talks more on the volunteer and training. Would you like to hear more about that? Do you have any concerns about our dogs and the training involved of our volunteers? It just goes to the safety and security of the...
I don't,
I've got a few questions about what you said so far.
Right.
Okay, please, yes.
So you gave some noise ratings.
Yes,
You said 87 decibels in this big room,
yes,
90 in a small room.
correct.
I assume all those readings are taken inside. Do you have
Correct,
any-
contained.
Yes, any readings that were outside the building?
No. I did provide video to give you an example, just to show, going to that schedule that was shown, how when we get to the building, what it sounds like, when we're in the building feeding, what it sounds like, that sort of thing, but I only have that
Now,
information.
those readings are at your current facility.
Correct.
So roughly how many dogs, I assume these are all dogs, cats don't make much noise. How many dogs were in the big room at the time, roughly?
There's 24 kennels in our big dog room. In the small, 8, 10? 10 in the small, and in our break rooms, 7.
So the new facility,
Were they full at the time of testing?
Oh, yes. And we're often full.
so the new facility is listed as 8,000 square feet indoor kennel. So
Yes.
how many dogs do you anticipate having in an 8,000 square foot kennel area?
Well, it goes to us talking to our designer, architect, to see what can fit in that space and how much can fit. But we'd like to increase at least, so we have 24 today. We would love to go up to 40 dogs in kennels. Not 40 indoor-outdoor kennels, 40 containments for dogs. That also would contain the cat. We'd have a segregated area for the cat and a potential catio outside that contains the cats as well.
So make sure I understand you. So basically double.
We would like to have the capacity. We could fill that today.
Okay.
Again, it really relies on seeing the architect, what the land could support, how much we can afford. It all plays a part into that.
So, and I hate to reference it, but it's all I have. So you don't have our packet in front of you, but on page 45 of our packet, I'm going to read you something. I believe the county staff put this in. There's a statement that says, based on clients' knowledge at their other sites. So I'm not sure what those other sites are. That statement was made in reference to traffic. I'm not talking about traffic. I'm trying to get basically a reference to scale of the proposed facility compared to others, where those other facilities are, if they're in commercial areas or residential areas and such things. So if these other facilities, are you personally aware of those, or is this just
What I
reference
think,
from others.
what I think it's referencing, well, we have a thrift shop, that's a separate facility, that will not be represented on this property. What may have been referenced was we're attached to a veterinarian today. So that may be that what they meant, is there's other facilities. But we don't have multiple kennels, rescues. We just have the one location, the 8177 Regent Parkway. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and I assume since you said you're independent, you don't have data from others either?
As far as,
Is, like, even within the region, is there another facility that's similar to what you're proposing?
as it pertains to noise, as it pertains to
size?
size?
And to number of animals that will be housed there?
We've been looking for suitable land for a long time, so we did do some research. We went to Aiken Humane Society, went to various humane societies. Very different demographics as far as animals are concerned. So some of their facilities had 5 to 10 dogs and 40 cats or 100 cats. It wasn't quite apples to apples. The Humane Society of Charlotte, which is completely independent from us, they just built a facility in Charlotte. And I don't know how many animals they contain. So unfortunately, I don't have that information on numbers. But again, if a space only allows 12 outside, indoor, outdoor runs, and then the rest inside, that will drive our numbers. We know that today, what are we at, 59 dogs today? So 59 dogs today, that's not constant, obviously. You know, adoptions, our output. We sometimes relocate to another rescue if it's suitable for that dog. But today we have 59 dogs. And like I said, they're in our bathroom, they're in our medical room, they're in our big break room. The growth is there, and we're just managing it.
I guess I would like to see, and it may not be possible, something to relate this to. Obviously not an expert on housing rescued animals. I can tell you there is a rescue here in York County that my daughter was on the board and my sons volunteered there, so I've been there a number of times, and you know, dogs are friendly. When they see somebody, they want some attention. They start barking, and when one barks, they all tend to bark. You know, it kind of gets a bit exciting. They do a terrific job there. It's pretty much out in the country. I don't think the neighbors really care. I've never heard anything, but.
Are they outside kennels? Just to clarify?
What's that?
Are they outside kennels? Like, are the dogs outside?
So the dogs are outside every time I've been there, but I've only been there during, you know, normal operating hours. I think they're housed inside otherwise, but clearly I'm no expert on it, so.
Gotcha.
I think everybody's concern clearly is noise, and it would help me if I had something to relate it to, because, you know, dogs tend to react to other barking dogs. They hear a siren, they all want to bark, you know. And to have something that would at least put the neighbors at ease over the noise. That's why I asked, is there a noise rating for outside? That, you know, even if, I mean, twice as many dogs wouldn't make twice as much noise, but still something that we could relate it to.
Absolutely.
It would help.
Well, let me ask a follow-up question to that. So, because this was on my list. So, on your plan, you're showing a proposed indoor kennel.
Yes.
Do those have outdoor runs, or?
Some will, yes.
So you will have some outdoor runs?
Yes, but the dogs will only be out on scheduled times, and at close of business, they're inside. There will be no outside dog barking.
Well,
They won't be unsupervised, in other words.
so you have we'll just call them 2 squares. You've got one square that's labeled as an indoor kennel, and then next to it you have.
Oh, yes. Mhm.
You
That's
have an
confusing. It's
outdoor-
confusing.
You have an outdoor kennel. What I'm asking is, does your indoor facility, so do your kennel runs have an indoor and an outdoor component to them?
Yes, yes. And the square to the right is representing the yards for the dogs. That will be
But
put,
that's a separate from what I'm asking. I'm asking, does your kennel, does your building have,
indoor components?
and I've done a lot of, back years ago, did a lot of animal shelters. We worked at the Humane Society at Charlotte and all that, so I got a fair amount of experience with the design of a kennel.
Okay.
So the question I'm asking is, you have indoor runs.
Yes.
Do they have an outdoor run attached to each indoor run?
With the guillotine opening? Yes, that would be the intent, is to have a number of those, not for 40 dogs, but whatever can fit in the space. And
Because I mean, that's not typically big enough for somebody to supervise, I guess is the question. As opposed to a yard where you're taking them out and walking them.
And we prefer the yards because of the interaction and the ability to work with them. You know, rescue dogs come in and there can be some challenges at times, so we like to work with them. We like to have some training done. We do the fear-free training to keep them calm and collected. The indoor-outdoor was just a way to, like today on our current location, we systematically take our dogs out a number at a time and put them either in yards or in outdoor kennels to clean. In most cases, they are being walked by our volunteers. They take them off-site, they walk them, they get them tired, they come back to their kennels clean, organized, and ready for them to eat and go on with their day. Obviously, that has to be done, who knows, 5 to 10 times a day. We do have the opportunity, because of all these wonderful volunteers, to have them walked. And so that's where that tree line comes into place, and keeping that buffer. Our intent is truly to use that to our benefit, having trails and walks and keeping that noise cancellation. The trees are perfect noise cancellation. I looked that up as far as anything to the back of the building, and the number one thing on the list was to do a wall of trees, which are there, but we could do a wall of shorter trees that just take the noise out of the equation is the intent. Did that answer your question as far as the indoor-outdoor? I mean, yes, we are having them. We're not having 40 of them.
Okay.
We're having maybe 10 so they can rotate and have a little air when we're taking others for a walk. It's just a efficiency use.
I think that's probably, from a control standpoint, that's the one kind of, to me.
Wild card?
The wild card,
Okay,
because it is, I mean, you know, the others, you're pretty much with the pet there.
Absolutely. Well,
You're just letting them out. Let me move on.
Sure.
Well, unless you
no,
have an answer to that.
no. Well, I can tell you if that is a constraint, we can definitely say, no, that just offers us more to have yardage out there. Instead of having the indoor-outdoor kennel or runs type thing, we could just have that being fenced, and that would do very similar to what we do today.
And you mentioned the trails and whatnot, that you're gonna, you know, walk the dogs through and I think that's an awesome use of the natural terrain you have. I think my one concern would be if I was going to put a constraint on this, the one thing I would say would be that you have to keep those out of the buffer. Would that be an issue? Any dog walks or
I see.
any,
I see.
so that
So
they're
set
not
back
getting,
the
so they're
fencing.
not getting up to the property line.
Yeah, so set back the fencing to the buffer line.
Well, any trails you have through the woods and everything like that, they're restricted to an area outside of the 100-foot or 150 feet, whatever would that be an issue?
Yes, yes, because it's open, it's acreages of where we can, and it's woods, and there's streams, it's just like a Disneyland for a dog. And for us, for that matter, because we enjoy being with the dogs and playing with them and making them more adoptable, so yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely, you would be opposed to
No, I
some
would
restriction?
agree, no,
Okay.
no, I would think
Yeah.
that's
Keeping
doable,
them some distance from the property line. Okay.
absolutely.
Another question I had was, what do you do on the weekends?
I'm sorry?
What do you do on the weekends?
This.
Well, not you.
Six and a half days a
I wasn't
week.
getting that personal, I meant.
We need levity, it's late,
Yeah, I
I'm
know,
just
it's
kidding.
true. It was good timing.
What's the procedure for the dogs? Are they out on the weekend? And if so, what time?
It is a
and-
7 days a week activity. So we do this every single day of the week,
So they're out they can be out in the yard between
8 and 4.
4 on the weekend. Okay.
Mostly being walked. Mostly being walked with the person.
Are you done?
Huh?
Do you have another question? So, I,
You can, it's okay.
you're blushing. Okay, I have a quick question regarding the proposed outdoor kennel area. So what do you use that for? Is that just dogs that just need to go out and relieve themselves, and are they attended when they're out there? How many are out there at a time?
Having it be a conceptual plan, it hasn't been defined.
Okay.
But taking into account what you're saying, it may not be really a good use of that space. Preferably, maybe yards, segmented yards, and when they're in yards, they're supervised.
Okay.
Yes.
One other question. So, I know we talked about fencing.
Yes.
So, but will the property, wherever the property line is in this wooded buffer, will there be a fence line between, your neighbors and your property, where the trees are? Or are you just using the trees as a natural, when you go
No.
for walks? So obviously you'll be outside, some of the fenced-in areas when you go for your walks. Will there be a
Some sort of fencing,
Yes,
yeah.
barrier, or, so if the dog happens to get off its leash, or, I have dogs, I know sometimes they get away if they see a deer or something, and you're not, alert. Is there something to contain that dog so it's not running into
So
somebody's
the
backyard?
intent, yes, the intent is that there's segmented fencing and there's trails within there. So hopefully, there's, again, I need to be able to define and really see how it can lay out and how we can use the best use of the space. But the intention would be safety first, so yes, containment. Boy, I'd love to say a full fence around the yard. I just don't know that that's a feasible
Okay.
application. But in the back, it makes sense just to satisfy the noise concerns and the safety concerns.
Okay. And then also, and this might be a question for staff, are they required along the, what's the name of it, Holbrook Road, any type of buffer,
Yes.
added buffer?
Yeah, there'll be a buffer. I'm not sure what acoustic qualities it'll have, but there's certainly some vegetative buffer and a
So
buffer
from a curb
from
and
the
appeal
road.
standpoint,
Sure.
there'll be some kind of buffer, so, okay. There wasn't anything on the plat, so I wasn't sure if, what type they had to have or anything like that, so. So that was it for my questions right now.
I have a question about sanitation, and this is the second time tonight I found myself talking about this, but what happens to the waste? How is the animal waste
That's a great
disposed of?
question. Today, it is put into, we pick it up, and we dispose of it through our local garbage. If there is a more natural way and good for the environment way to do it, that would be wonderful, but that's the only way we know how to do it today. So we pick up with poop bags and dispose of.
Okay.
Yeah.
I grew up beside the county animal shelter, and I've always wondered why you never smelled it. So that makes sense, they haul it off.
Oh, yes. Yes, and gosh help you if you work at the garbage dump. Sorry.
Especially this time of year.
Yes, let that heat cook. Did you have any other questions? Thank you for taking the
Oh,
time.
wait, I do have a question.
sure.
Sorry. So in a letter that we received, I think, just recently, it was separate from our packet, it did say that you had a meeting, and in this specific letter, it said that our neighborhood, and I'm assuming that's the Massey neighborhood, which I'm assuming, is the neighborhood that's showing on this map, is that this neighborhood right here?
Behind, yeah.
Is this
mhm.
Massey? Okay. They said that they were passed over when the first meeting was held. Was there more than one meeting?
No, there was just one, and I was given a list from the county on who to send invites to.
Okay.
I think many were on the list, but some were not. So I don't know if it was chosen at a certain date and others moved in within that time frame. I don't
So
know.
staff, was the Massey neighborhood in part of that list?
I believe we gave them a list of property owners within 500 foot of the lot lines. Massey subdivision is huge.
Wait, so it's
Yeah,
farther
yeah,
away?
it caught a few of the people on probably Charleston Road, but probably didn't go a whole lot further than that.
Okay, so when they state they weren't invited, you were going by what staff was recommending? Okay.
Yes. Yes. Would you like the decimal reading details?
No, I didn't have any more
Okay.
questions about it, no.
Thank you so much for hearing me. Appreciate it.
So let's start with anyone who would like to speak for.
Can I ask a clarification on the timing, the 5-minute timing?
Yes, sir.
Point of order, or whatever term you use. If we have someone who, a number of us have signed up to speak. If we have someone who we would like to speak for us, who we know would take more than 5, can I cede my 5 minutes to that person so they can take 10 minutes to cover everything?
So I did give that instruction, so individually it's 5, but if you have someone who's speaking for a group, they get 10.
10.
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Was your question if anyone wanted to still speak for?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Bethany Clark. Also 8177 Regent Parkway, which is the location of the current shelter. I am the volunteer coordinator there, and I have been for the last 5.5 years. And what I really wanted to share with you all is, I know when we talk about things like kennels and so forth, and if you have familiarity maybe with some rural shelters or some county kennels and so forth, our little humane society where it is right now is this, it's a haven for the animals who come to us. We say sometimes that, you know, it's you think, oh my gosh, you'll hear people say, I could never go to the shelter because I'd want to take them all home. But in our little shelter, this is the best place that some of those animals have ever been. And I know when people get worried about sound and hearing like things like outdoor kennels and so forth, we are in a populated area right now, and we work very, very hard to be great neighbors to the people who are around us. And they are by and large much closer than we will be in this sort of scenario. We're very careful to safety. I'm the actual person who does all the orientations for all of our new volunteers. And so in our environment, safety, cleanliness, and fit are the 3 things that we talk about all the time. Safety starts with the dog who comes in and is assessed right away. We actually have different levels of assessments, level 1, level 2, and level 3, which is pervasive through our organization so that everyone knows where that dog is in terms of their strength, their personality, and their journey to decompression in a shelter environment. Our staff are trained from the very moment they start in. Nobody jumps into everything right away. Our shelter manager has been with us for how many? 13 years. So every staff member is trained with the idea of safety first, safety and cleanliness. If we can't keep our shelter and our environment clean, we can't keep animals healthy, and therefore we can't get them adopted. Cleanliness is truly next to godliness with regard to the shelter. But safety is not only important for our people, it's important for these animals, because you all know what happens when a dog bites someone, what happens to their opportunity for adoption at that point. So we do every single thing we possibly can from when someone starts at orientation, and we talk about safety, every rule that we put into place. When you start at our shelter, you go through an hour orientation, and then you get to do 10 service hours just cleaning and getting to know the staff members and the building and where everything goes before you're ever allowed to handle an animal. Then if you'd like to be a cat handler or a dog handler, then you go through one-on-one training with one of our volunteers who puts in countless hours to be a one-on-one trainer. We don't just want to be a kennel. We want to be a state-of-the-art humane society that is a beacon for what can happen in animal care. One of the things that that we haven't really talked about so far is not only the care and maintaining of animals who come to us, but what we could be in the community if we had the chance. We could have puppy classes. We could have so many more children's programs that we have no space for absolutely at all right now. We have this huge goal and things that we want to do and be a part of to be a mecca for a gathering place for animal welfare in our community. And so what we're really trying to, when you hear outdoor kennels, Fear Free will tell you that animals right away sometimes just need to be able to go out and come in without having their harness in. That's a small, safe area where they can be for a short time while they go to the bathroom or while they clean their kennels. But it is not the sort of scenario where we have 40 dogs outside barking or reacting to trucks that go by and that sort of thing. That's not good for them either. The best thing for our animals is to keep them as calm and peaceful and happy as possible, because that's how they can learn. That's how they can be rehabilitated if that's what needs to happen in the case of that animal. It's better for everyone. So that's what we're trying to be. Thank you so much.
Will Jordan, 2207 Old Creek Road, Rock Hill. A question a few minutes ago was about where they might be able to do dog walking into the woods. And it was mentioned about nothing walking in the buffer. And I just want to clarify, I'm assuming you're talking about no dog walking within the 75 feet, the normal buffer, not the entire area that they can't remove trees from.
Correct.
Yeah, so just the 75 feet. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Megan Presswood, 8177 Regent Parkway. My friends know that I don't talk, so I'll make it very quick, trust me. I just wanted to bring from the operational standpoint, because I am the manager, the outdoor kennel clarification. The way we have it now, we have yards, but our dogs do not exceed 10 minutes in a yard. So when we come in, our intent, if we had that maybe 10 outdoor runs, 3 would go out, we clean, they come in. We wouldn't have 10 out at one time. It's also against our policy now. Our dogs do not go outside for more than 10, 15 minutes. We have a timer, they come in. If a drop of rain, our dogs come in. If it exceeds 80 degrees, they come in 5 minutes. We just are very strict about the time they are allowed to be outside. So it will not be, we walk in, we hit a button, the hounds are released, they're barking, and we're sitting inside. We will have 3 out, we clean, they come in. That's how we do it now, and that's how we would do it.
So how many dogs are outside at one time?
Well, depending on, we have 4 yards. So if we have a play group, which is 2 to 3 dogs at a time, so 1 dog in 1 yard, so 4. Sometimes there's play groups of like 2 dogs in a yard, but it's very rare. If we have multiples in yards, we have to have an employee standing in the yard at all times. If there's ever a disgruntled dog, they come in. So as of right now, it's anywhere between 4 to 6 outside at any time.
So since this facility is bigger, do you anticipate that number would increase?
I wouldn't think so, because you have to have employees staying outside. Right now we're at 14, obviously we would have to grow as the building grows, but at the same time, if we have to have someone monitoring the dogs at all times, we don't have enough people to let out 10 dogs at one time and 10 of us stand outside and watch the dogs. So no, I wouldn't think it wouldn't be much of a difference of what we're doing now.
I have a question for staff. So when we look at some of these, what do you call it, special exception requests, I'm thinking like some of the venues we have, they have to submit an operation, I don't know what you call it, operation plan. Is that required here?
No, that's not required here.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak for? Going once? Going twice? Okay.
Do you maybe want to ask, by a show of hands, who here is in support?
Yeah, let's do that. Show of hands.
I thought that's what the green shirt.
Oh, there's more.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. All right, so let's keep the discussion this way. So if we have no more to speak for, do we have anybody to speak against?
I get to be the first bad guy. Good evening, board members. My name is Robert Leake at 4086 Charlton Road. I represent over 200 members of the Massey neighborhood, homeowners that is. Before I begin, I'm correct in understanding you guys have a copy of this document in front of you. Excellent. Thank you very much, Rick and Emily, for making that happen. Also, before I begin, I want the record to show that line 68 on page 11 should be stricken. Thank you. As previously stated, my name is Robert Leake, and my wife, son, daughter-to-be, and our dog Luke live in the Massey neighborhood. What I have to say to you all will take no longer than 8 minutes. Our home in Massey is the closest constructed home to the lot that we are discussing today. I also want to state that I work for a company who works with various businesses and local governments in this area. The point is, I have personal and professional interest in seeing York County prosper. I also want to point out that I, family members, and friends have adopted animals from various humane societies, pounds, and shelters, and we are animal lovers. As mentioned, I have volunteered to represent over 200 members of the Massey community, some of whom are here. Our neighborhood is not just a collection of houses. It's a close-knit community where families have chosen to settle down and create lasting memories. We take pride in our beautiful surroundings, safe streets, and most of all, the peaceful atmosphere. News of the proposed commercial kennel came as a big surprise to our neighborhood. Our neighborhood was passed over when the first meeting was held on Monday, June 12th. It appears that only residents of Holbrook Road or off of Holbrook Road were invited. Today, I will present 4 of the top concerns from the Massey neighborhood, which are noise levels, trees being an insufficient barrier, the risk to property values, and the conflict with the 2035 Comprehensive York County Plan. First concern, facts about noise levels. The loudest dog bark on record was 113 decibels as reported by Guinness World Records. Multiple dogs barking raises the decibel to 120 dB or more. According to CEDS.org, one study documented that noise levels in animal shelters regularly exceed 100 decibels. To put this in context, a motorcycle emits noise at 95 dB and a chainsaw 110 dB. A daytime noise level of 65 dB is generally considered the maximum acceptable in residential areas, with no more than 55 dB at night, end quote. The distance from the proposed outdoor kennel to our neighborhood is approximately 500 feet. Now that may sound like a lot. However, using the distance attenuation calculator on omnicalculator.com, if a source noise is 120 dB, the same sound is heard at 86 dB from 500 feet away. Let's take a look at the graph in front of you of a noise level chart as made available by boomspeaker.com. You can see that 86 dB is well into the hazardous range or compared to a busy restaurant or apparently the small dog room in the Humane Society. It is a known fact that dogs have much more sensitive hearing than humans, especially over long distances. It is also reasonable to state that one dog barking encourages other dogs to bark. So if there's consistent barking coming from the kennel, this will create barking coming from our dogs in our neighborhood. So a chain of events starts, which increases noise across our neighborhood. Furthermore, the average background noise in a rural area is only 30 to 40 decibels. So if a commercial kennel can be heard at 86 dB in our neighborhood, and other dogs start barking, we're now looking at noise levels in excess of 100 dB, or an increase of 3 to 4 times the current noise levels during the day. Second concern, the tree barrier. Yes, there are beautiful trees throughout this area, and we want to keep it that way, especially because in the winter month, those trees go bare, and I, as well as other neighbors, can see and hear everything that happens on the other side of those trees. Please look at this picture taken on March 20th, 2022, which is after the trees have started to come back into bloom. This photo is taken from the lot next to our home, looking past the back of our home directly at the lot in question. You can see that even from this distance, the tree barrier provides little to no noise nor visual barrier to Holbrook Road when the trees are bare. We can hear and see cars on Holbrook Road when the trees are not in bloom. This can be confirmed by the residents who live directly behind us in a neighborhood off of Holbrook Road that adjoins to the lot in question. Furthermore, and as we just heard, paperwork submitted by the Humane Society states that the woods will be used for pet use, which would bring the noise even closer to our neighborhood. And a point of clarification, the actual distance from my property to the property line is only 226.3 feet. And also, I want to point out, due to the terrain and a waterway at the base of that terrain, a fence on the property line would be very difficult to implement on the property line. Third concern, the risk to property values. Lots of factors go into property values, but noise is one of the most impactful. We moved out of the Steel Creek area because of the airplane noise, and we chose this neighborhood because it is peaceful and quiet. If prospective home buyers step out of their cars and hear dogs barking, which leads to discovery of the commercial kennel, this will dissuade them from buying, thus driving down property values. Furthermore, there are residents whose homes are being built right now who know nothing of this. They are right around the corner from me and will be perhaps closer to the proposed kennel than I am. The map in front of you illustrates this point. 4086 is our home. The green triangles that I have circled there are homes that are not yet completed or not yet started yet. These residents likely have no knowledge of this circumstance. Fourth concern, comprehensive plan conflict. The lot in question is currently zoned rural developmental. The 2035 comprehensive plan shows that this lot and the surrounding area are to be neighborhood residential with single-family residential on the other side of Holbrook Road. York County defines the character of neighborhood residential as, quote, suburban neighborhoods near designated centers and a mix of residential housing types and lot sizes, end quote. The county has approved this plan, and a commercial kennel does not align with the approved plan. See this map from the 2035 comprehensive plan where I have highlighted the lot in question. You can see that it sits in neighborhood residential. It is clear that the comprehensive plan wants to limit commercial growth as well as mitigate density. Therefore, how could a special exception be made when it goes against the very plan that has been accepted? This proposed site does not comply with section 155.1065.3. Now, I want to be clear that I have the utmost respect for the Humane Society and we support their mission. I believe in the work that they do, and I want to see more animals given a second chance. I've spoken with Mary Beth from the Humane Society multiple times, and I have expressed my understanding of the difficulty of finding land that checks all the boxes without costing millions of dollars. I continue to be on the lookout for land and properties that would be a good fit for the Humane Society. I did put Mary Beth in touch with a local company in the area who is looking to sublease their space, and I'm sure the right location is out there. In closing, we have examined 4 primary concerns, which are noise levels, trees being an insufficient barrier, the risk to property values, and the conflict with the 2035 comprehensive York County plan. There are other concerns from other residents. However, I have a petition that is signed by residents of Massey for a total of 117 households who support this position that I have outlined. That's 117 households made up of moms, dads, grandparents, and relatives. 117 letters against this motion. We are unanimous in stating that we do not want to see this special exception granted. I thank you for the opportunity to speak and to be heard. Respectfully, Robert Lee. Questions?
Just one. Have you actually visited any shelters that are similar to the way that this operates?
Dr. Robbie, next door to the current Humane Society, has taken care of my family pets for over 20 years, and we've donated to the Humane Society with leftover goods just as recently as a month ago when Dr. Robbie put down my mom's 2 beloved dogs, and we donated the leftover things to the Humane Society next door. So yes, sir, I have visited many Humane Societies, pound shelters, et cetera.
Many years ago, a couple miles away from my house, there was a possibility of a garbage transfer station being installed, so I initially opposed it, and I was told maybe you ought to go check. I did, and then I opposed it much more vehemently. But that doesn't necessarily mean that would apply in this case. It's just if you see a similarly operating facility and you still have the same concerns, I guess that says something.
Yes, sir. Actually, one of our other residents has brought that to my attention. I did not specifically insert it into this document as it was a petition. I didn't want to insert anything after people had signed. However, they have paperwork showing the location of other kennels, and you'll see that they are nowhere near residential locations.
So when you say other kennels, do you mean kennels? Because one of the points that came up when the applicant was speaking was some kennels do house dogs outside.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes for a lot of noise.
Absolutely.
My big concern, I'm sure it's your big concern, is noise. I mean, even the property values, it goes back to noise. Everything really goes back to how much noise is there going to be. So the applicant was nice enough to give us decibel readings, but I don't know what those decibel readings are outside, and I don't know what happens to those decibel readings when it's a larger facility.
Exactly.
In my view, trees are a very poor acoustical barrier. They make a good aesthetic barrier, but not acoustical barrier. So my big hurdle with this whole thing is I would love to see something that I can relate it to. Because we all know that there are some people out there, well-intentioned, that run an animal rescue type of kennel and do a really terrible job at it. And we also know there are people out there that do it and do it right. I just really don't know all the details of the differences and what those differences affect are. I'm kind of led to believe that these folks do it more right than wrong.
I would agree with that. And as I mentioned, I support them. Just not in a zoned residential area.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Patricia Moody. I live at 1763 Earl Drive, and I feel like I'm a frontline person. If I can make the pointer work, I am the property directly next to the proposed property to be zoned commercial. I'm dismayed to be at odds with the Humane Society on this. No one disputes their mission or the wonderful work they're doing, and these folks obviously are wonderful. I see them all the time at Riverwalk. We all have our dogs. I have the last 6 of our dogs have been adopted either directly through events by the Humane Society, the York County Humane Society, or other rescue missions. So that is not our issue. I do appreciate you saying about, some facilities are run well, some are not. This one sounds like it's pretty well run. With all the promises that they say they will do, what recourse would we have if some of these things don't happen as the way they say they will? My screened-in back porch on my house is can I get the pointer to work? Oops, nope. Nope, can't do that either. The green one? Thank you. My back porch is right there. There's my house, and there's my back porch right there. Noise, obviously, I'll try not to repeat some of the same things. I had a lot of the same points as Mr. Leek had. As I'm listening to all of these conversations, where we live off of Holbrook Road, we were all in nervous anticipation when the parkway was being planned because we didn't know how close commercial development was going to come to our homes. Thankfully, it's kind of a nice distance away from our house, so we felt like we were protected from commercial development. I feel like this invites, there's a space now between the commercial development on the parkway and our neighborhood and where we live. I feel like if we put something commercial in the middle of that road, we're just inviting more commercial stuff to come down. It's going to be easier for other exceptions, other approvals to come on down the line. Let me think of what else I've got. Traffic. We talked about traffic, and there was a study that somebody talked about that they had, but then another advocate for this said, oh, we're going to have puppy classes and group community things, and we're going to be a place where it's more traffic. It's more traffic. It's more people coming up and down Holbrook Road, which is not the best road anyway. Some of us walk up near it. You can't walk on it, so people are going to be coming there. Everybody's going to the residential areas at the end. People are going to miss the driveway. They're going to coming down my road to turn around and go back out again. It's going to increase traffic. There's no question about it. People are used to the commercial road on the parkway going 45 miles an hour. They're going to disregard our 40-mile-an-hour speed limit. And people will abandon dogs. They may have protocols for that, but what's that going to stop the person in the middle of the night that drops their dog or dogs off? There's nobody there. What's going to happen when that happens? Sound barriers, noise, commercial dog kennels. I had a lot of the same data that Mr. Leek had. I also have another neighbor who couldn't be here tonight who lives within my neighborhood on Henry Farm Road who used to own a commercial dog kennel. He said he always had issues with the neighbors. They always had problems. They could hear dogs barking 8 to 10 miles away. That's anecdotal, I know that. My husband earns his livelihood doing videotaping depositions for attorneys and other legal things within our home. Leaf blowers in a commercial area or other residential areas have always been a bane for him. I can't imagine if he would have to deal with also barking dogs as well. And like Mr. Leek said, when one dog starts barking, they all start barking. Well, we got 2, and they've got a big backyard there, so if they see people walking around or other dogs coming out there, they're going to be barking and going crazy over that too. That's all I can present that's different than what Mr. Leek said, but I emphasize everything he said 100%. This is a bad move for all the residents in the area. Again, I'm sympathetic. I love these guys. I see them all the time out and walk on Riverwalk, but this is a bad move for our home and our community. There's got to be a better place they can go. Any questions? Thank you.
My name is David Knapp. Address is 1799 Stegall Lane. If you look at the map, our property line is 400 feet from that corner where Ms. Pruitt just described. And I also share all the concerns previously mentioned about noise in particular. But one thing I do want to add that I am very upset about is the friendliness that you extended to the neighbors. I found out about this hearing last Friday. They had the meeting June 12th. We live that close to that site, and we were not invited, we were not notified, and there are 4 houses adjacent to our property that are our relatives, and none of them were notified. And you said that the interested neighbors were in Trinity Ridge.
Sir, if you could please direct your
Okay.
comments toward the board.
She said the interested neighbors that were supportive was Trinity Ridge. Trinity Ridge is down Holbrook Road a good 1.5 miles. They are not living where we do, immediately near that property. And it concerns me that I look around this meeting and it was obvious that the supporters, there was a good communication and in inviting them to this meeting. But the residents who live close to that and who are going to have to be subject to the noise and other problems of this kennel were not invited, were not notified. It's come as a surprise. And those people, those 4 houses I mentioned, those people are all on vacation like good Southern people for this time of year. The lady across the street from us is also on vacation. There's also, it's Stegall Lane is full of Stegalls. They are on vacation right now. So we're representing a group of people that probably could be just as many as sitting here, but they're not here because of no notification. Okay? I plead with you and respectfully ask that you not allow this exemption. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
I wouldn't normally chime in because this is public hearing, but I'll only do so because I heard something that was incorrect. The applicant noticed everyone that we noticed, so they followed every regulation that we have in the code. And I will say that state law does not require notices to even be sent out. State law only requires the property to be posted with a sign and it to be posted in the newspaper.
Could I respond to that? It was mentioned that the Humane Society is a good neighbor. I would have thought by good neighbor, they would have at least talked to the neighbors immediately around the property. And let me say one more thing too. I've got to say that we really support the mission of the Humane Society. One of our best friends is a volunteer, and we know her passion, and that passion is shared, I'm sure, by all of these volunteers. They do wonderful work. We contribute financially to the Humane Society, as most of the people in the neighborhood do. But we're asking that they not be granted this exemption and that they look elsewhere for their dream home, not a residential area. Thank you.
Hi all, my name is Naga Kishore Patipaka. I live in 717 Laurel Oaks Court, Fort Mill. So the reason I came here today, I will be the future resident of Massey neighborhood, just behind that property line where we are seeing on Charlton Road. So I I have a dog and I love animals. And those people with blue t-shirts I've seen many times because I donate food there. I'm the regular visitor of Poochie's Grooming Salon next to you because that's why. So I know you guys are doing great things, definitely. But why in the middle of neighborhoods? If you go to Realtor.com, Zillow, there are a bunch of commercial and industrial areas you can just list down in 1 second. I mean, why in the middle of the neighborhood? The average home price, median home value in South Carolina is $240K right now, single family homes, and Fort Mill is $550K almost. And the same neighborhood in Massey, they were selling the single family home around 3,000 square foot for $400,000 3 years ago. Now it's 720, 750 range. The prices are skyrocketed. The reason I moved from Midwest, Indianapolis, because of the nature, trees, peaceful living, and suburban living, and most of the neighborhoods in Fort Mill, if they are residential, means they are purely residential. And the way the county and towns plan such a way. And I'm a big lover of Fort Mill and South Carolina State. So my simple 5 minutes Google search shows. So I'm unable to print out this because of the printer issues, and I sent to my residents actually. 100% human society and animal shelters, which is near to our county and in South Carolina and North Carolina, are industrial, heavy industrial, or commercial. I have with address. First one is Lancaster County Animal Shelter, 2074 Pageland Highway, Lancaster. It is a heavy industry commercial zone. Chester County Animal Control Center, 2714 Dawson Drive, Chester, South Carolina. It's a commercial zone. And Richland County Animal Control, Columbia, South Carolina, heavy industrial zone. Greenville Humane Society, 305 Airport Road. It is next to the airport road. It is the biggest, same this size of the animal control. And I have gone to there, but I did my research and I have talked to people because my company where I work, it's a GE Lighting, Hubble Lighting. It is near the Greenville, and I have a lot of colleagues. And Gaston County Animal Care Enforcement, next to our door, next to the Highway 85, heavy industrial zone. And Charleston Animal Society, 2444 Remount Road, North Charleston, next to the Charleston Airport, heavy industrial, heavy commercial zone. Wake County Animal Center, Raleigh, North Carolina, Bacon Lake Drive, next to the freeway, heavy industrial or heavy commercial zone. I stopped it my searching because I couldn't find single one, to be frank. If you find anyone, welcome, we have one more debate. And I am from Midwest. I lived in Indianapolis for 8 years, and I used to go to Marion County Animal Shelter, which is a very famous one. I mean, which is prominent. They have a clinic, neutering, spraying, whatever. I used to go there. I used to help people. I used to volunteer, which is next to Rolls-Royce company, which is the headquarters for Rolls-Royce. It's a heavy commercial zone. I can't find a single place where they put it in. They don't need to, actually. Simple. You can go there. You can search it. They have so many places, so many lands, which are zoned for industrial and commercial. You don't need to have a kennel to keep it there because people are paying high money. Means I want to buy a home because I want to have peace, but I'm hardly affording in Fort Mill. And it's one of the expensive houses I never imagined in my life, but I am trying, I'm working hard 80 hours in a week to go to the dream home. And I signed my contract 2 months ago. Now, if I put my home, even I cannot assign my contract because, yeah, no way the house values go down. No way. It's a known fact, everyone. So I can, if I want to sell my home, assign the contract to someone because I don't want to live there. No one is ready to. All the future owners, they sold 100% already, Macy's. They're going out of that neighborhood. So, yeah. So I'll take 1 more minute, just it. And that's what. Neighborhoods are not places. My classic example is that, for example, let's say my daughter wants to be a veterinarian. Okay, I want to service, I want to give service, I want to go with emotions. So I know that she's going to be a veterinarian 90% when she grow up. So do the people, neighbors agree that I put a veterinarian clinic at my home and I'm serving free service to everyone? No. There is a designated place to do service also. So I have to teach my daughter, okay, if you're doing a free service also, if you're doing a free surgeries for the animals, go and put it your clinical where it's commercially zoned. Then do service. We cannot, yeah, I mean, that's it. Thank you.
Am I close enough here? My name is Matt Crane. I live at 4066 Charlton Road, Fort Mill, a couple of houses down from Robert, house facing the woods. First, I'd like to say I love dogs. My whole life, you know, we've had dogs since I was little. My mom volunteers for the Humane Society. She volunteers at a shelter. She is a volunteer dog walker. And I support everything that they're trying to do, everything that they've came up here and said, everything that they're trying to do to rehabilitate dogs, I'm in full support of. That's not why we're here, right? We're here for an exception, which is where they're going to do this. And where they're going to do this is in a residential area. It's zoned residential. I just want to give you my perspective. I bought my home kind of like the dream home. You know, I got a house facing the woods. You have to pay extra money to get those houses facing the woods. I was in a lottery. September, we lost house facing the woods. October, we lost a house facing the woods. November, we finally got it. We were the third on the list, and we spent extra money to get this house facing the woods because we want nature, we want quiet. That's really what we want this to be our forever home. And, you know, I think it's fair when people buy their homes that it's fair for them to expect those homes to be in a residential area. There's no doubt that from what I heard today around the current number of dogs at the current facility and the plans to more than double that number of dogs, there will be an absolute, undisputable impact in my property. I will definitely hear dogs regardless of what is proposed. And the thing that concerns me the most is that I think I had heard from the staff that there is no operational details required in order to approve this. So this is a dream for the Humane Society, for the space and what they can do and how they can double things and have the dogs out walking and all of that, and I support all of that. But I do not support that in a residential area because it impacts my property, it impacts my peace of mind, impacts the noise levels in the neighborhood. The last thing I guess what I want to say is I support the mission of the Humane Society. I hope that we can find them a good home. I understand that they're likely getting this value of this property for a relatively good price, and that's why they want it. We've talked actually in our neighborhood in the Massey, can we do something to support them? Can we organize a fundraiser? Because I don't know what their means are and what they're trying to do. And I support them, but this is not the right decision to impact our homes and you know, our livelihood where we live and where we're outside every day. So, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Guinieri, and this is my husband, Stefano. We live at the corner of Charlton and Kettering Avenue, the top lot closest to the woods. I'm here today because we have 3 daughters. Our daughters are ages 6, 4, and 2. And my number one concern is safety. And I understand that they have training for their staff and, you know, they sound like a very good organization as far as training goes. However, we bought our house in a residential area, actually in an HOA. I know some people don't support or like HOAs, but we like the fact in the HOA that there's no aggressive large breed dogs allowed in our neighborhood. There's a certain limit on the amount of dogs that you can have. We don't have a fenced-in yard. We like the fact that our street loops around. It's not a cul-de-sac. However, it's an area where our children are able to run and feel safe. They're very young. I'm concerned with the fact that they said they could be up to 59 dogs, and they will actually take them into the woods on, little, trail areas. And I'm just concerned that one time, all it takes is that one time for a dog to escape. They're not gonna run to the street, they're gonna run to the woods to escape to our neighborhood, where our kids are, where our small kids are. And that one time, I don't want something to happen, and that's my major concern.
And we're not saying that they're not capable, of course, like they well trained and they do safety training every day. I do an example, I used to work 5 years on a cruise ship. We do training every day about safety. An Italian cruise ship sank because there was an accident. Means like that no matter how well you train, accident can happen. And if you see on the corner, that triangle over there, that is the Dobbs Bridge Elementary School. So lots of kids are there, and a pit bull can jump over 13 feet high. And who's gonna say that they rescue a pit bull and this pit bull's gonna jump the fence that they're gonna do 6 foot, as far as I understand, and it's gonna attack some kids. So safety first. I'm sorry, but I mean.
As others have stated, we do support their mission. We actually adopted 2 cats from them last month, and we love their mission. However, not close to our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nathan LaChapelle. I live at 5056 Kettering, a couple blocks down, a couple houses down there. I just wanted to point out the property value, and there's something Councilman mentioned there about the garbage transfer. In the mortgage business, when you do appraisals, there is something called external obsolescence, right? Close to railroad tracks, close to airports, garbage dumps, and kennels. It has a impact on people that buy. It's not just that I don't want to live next to it. It has a numerical value, especially in neighborhoods like this where they're clustered together. And the other thing I just want to note is that with everyone with the best of intentions, people do leave dogs at humane societies outside all the time. I came from Charlotte, where I know a lot of volunteers up there, and they have folks around that area where there are stray dogs and stray cats and things like that, and it is unsafe. And to my colleague's point there, almost every humane society also that I could find, industrial areas, commercial areas. So it's a true exception to put that there, and frankly unfair to the homeowners who bought that with having no knowledge of that. It's almost like having the rug pulled out from under them. I didn't choose to live next there, right? You know, I've got a 3-year-old son that runs to every yard in the neighborhood, loves dogs. He doesn't quite know if they're safe or not, and it's a safety issue for us. So I appreciate y'all's consideration.
Good evening, Council Member. My name is Sayan. I live in 4119 Charlton Road, which is this home, which I came to know today is the closest, probably one of the closest to their building facility. May not be to the property, but the portion where they're building, which is here, I'm right in front. And I've been there for almost a year, and during fall seasons, I can see and hear cars going through this Holbrook Road. So trees are not a good barrier. I can tell you for sure. They are quoting their current address as 8177 Regent Parkway. I just looked it up. It's a small facility, which they are saying they have, 59 dogs? Here we are talking about 11 acres. It's a small facility that they are currently in, and they are not operating in that entire facility even. They are in a portion of that facility. And when I look up as a Google map, there can be like 15 cars parked stand beside to each other, and that's it. That's the entire building, and they're in a portion of that. It's pretty small where they're currently operating, and this is pretty big in terms of what they are currently and where they are going to be. So I'm guessing the number of dogs that will come here will be tremendously high, and 59 is not a good number that we should be like considering here. Most of us in this neighborhood, it's a new neighborhood, and some of us work in IT, and we are all working from home. So that means we are in our homes throughout the week, not 5 days, not 6 days. We are living there, we are working there. And I appreciate the work that they do, and it's a volunteer work. That means outside of their work, they come here, spend their time, and go back to their home. And we are going to live there. So there is a difference this is going to be my next door. I don't know why they chose to. They must be fascinated by me, so they chose to come next to my door. So I feel this should not be my neighbor. And when I was hearing about the presentations that they were giving, I didn't hear a concrete, rigid answer. Yes, there will be a fence. Yes, this is what is going to happen. Yes. No, it was like, we're going to look at the plan, we're going to see what is best for us, what is best for... So there was not a concrete answer that I was looking for, I got from their presentation. And lastly, which you cannot see in this diagram, this is their property line, this is our home. This property line, this is a tree, but this area and this area is at the same level, but the property line goes downhill. It's like goes like this. It's deep. It's literally hard to even walk there. The reason why I bring this up, that means we are talking about dogs running, and just a little leap, they are over. So they need to build a very high fence to prevent dogs from coming to our neighborhood. That area is almost, I didn't do any survey, but that is pretty deep. And it goes like a V shape, so a dog running in can make a quick leap and come into our neighborhood. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Malecki. I live at 5025 St. Clair Street in Fort Mill. Many of the people that have spoken have direct interest in the project and the good that it does, and it certainly, that is the case. Or they're homeowners that are joined in a butt to this piece of property that's being considered. My home is not near the property that's being considered for rezoning. But I've driven down Holbrook Road, and to the best of my knowledge, there is no property that is on Holbrook Road that is zoned commercial. This would be an exception and setting a possible precedent that could be argued at a future date. It doesn't make a lot of sense to go ahead and have this type of facility and zone a piece of property for commercial use on a road to this point in time that has no commercial zoning.
Hello, my name is Stefan Hofmann. I live at 5036 Kettering Avenue in Fort Mill. And yeah, I think everything is said. And I just would like to address to you, be honest to yourself. What would you think if something like that would happen in your home, in your safe space, when you come home from work, where you play with your kids, where you relax? Where maybe you spend a lot of money to get to your dream home. Be honest to yourself and ask the question, is that the right place for the kennel? I don't think so. Thank you.
Good evening, Jim Leake at 1214 Kings Bottom Drive. I'm at the very other end of Massey, so not too concerned personally about the particular location, but very supportive of all the concerns that have been raised of the residents, both pre-existing Massey and the ones that are in Massey. I just want to amplify the last point that Robert made about the comprehensive plan, which I am just returned to this area after living here for about 25 years and then going away for 10 years, and just moved back in February across the line into South Carolina and enjoying it greatly. So I probably need to learn more about York County and how you do comprehensive plan versus zoning. I was pretty surprised and yeah, I'll leave it at that, surprised that the staff didn't even mention comprehensive plan and how does that affect this. So what I'm here to amplify is for the homeowners that aren't here yet, the houses that haven't been built yet. Comprehensive plan, as mentioned earlier, and it's on, I forget the page in your document there, but you've got a color map of that, says that this would be single-family housing directly on Holbrook Road on what I'll call the north side of this map we're looking at. And the south side, including this property, is actually slightly higher density residential development. That's what York County has said should go into this area. So while the current residents have their valid concerns, what's going to happen to this property that York County has said we want it to be residential neighborhoods if a commercial dog shelter shows up on this piece of property? Nobody's going to want to develop or buy and build houses directly across the street from this, nor will they to the left or to the right of it. Your comprehensive plan then goes down the drain. I'm used to the fact, yes, you do zoning, then you come out with comprehensive plans, and once a comprehensive plan comes out, usually the counties have to undertake a process then to up the zoning to match the comprehensive plan. Perhaps that's what's in the middle of right here. I don't know what your procedures are to rectify a discrepancy between those two, but I just wanted to, again, amplify that fact that York County has said this should be residential development in all those green spaces that you see there. All right? Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, hi. My name is Anil Kodakanla. I live at 4076 Charlton Road, pretty close to the property that is in interest. So my main concern about this is the noise. Yeah, the Humane Society all the time explaining about the job they are doing. I appreciate that. That's a good job. But the main reason we are here to discuss about is how the structure and face of the neighborhood is changing. And so in a residential zone, we are approving a commercial building, right? So I request you to think about this, and I completely opposite this commercial development in a residential zone. Thank you very much.
Do we have anyone else to speak?
Hi, my name is Venkat. I'm nearby area 5051 Kettering Ave. It's Fort Mill. It's pretty close to my area. I'm concerned about my kids' health because a lot of noise, it's causing stress. So please take it as a consideration as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have anyone else to speak? the applicant would like to come back up? You've got 10 minutes.
The intent of this land was that the size is wonderful for us, the price tag was wonderful for us, the seller is supportive of us. We had no ill intent as far as not inviting anyone, we had no intent of causing such a ruckus. But this land is such a great fit for us. They talk about industrial, and we have gone everywhere. So $2-3 million for the land, and the topography is off the charts, so another $1 million to get it set so that we can build. So alone, just to get to the land itself. So it's been so not achievable in the past until we came across this land. So it truly has been, this is a piece that's wonderful. I heard what people said, and I do understand. I empathize. But we are a service, and it has to be done, and it's just a great land to do it on. We are extraordinarily compassionate and considerate group as well, so we will take every effort we can to make it so that it is the safest place it can be. Can accidents happen, of course, but personal pets can get out and attack. You know, things can happen. Things happen, and it's that fear is there because it's of the unknown. So I just ask that you highly consider the option for us. And Will, do you have anything else?
Yes. Will Jordan, 2207 Old Creek Road, Rock Hill. Just two things. I'll try to be brief here. One, with respect to noise, I think that 80-some decibels was inside the building. And of course, once you're outside the building, it's going to be much less. And in this particular situation, most of the noise, as we've heard by other operations, is inside the building and very little outside the building. So that noise from inside the building is not going to be very, very loud once you're outside the building. Plus, the nearest rooftop currently existing out there from the building, the inside building they have is probably 700 or 800 feet. You know. So it's a long ways to the nearest residence currently. So I don't think noise is going to be that much of a problem to the neighbors. And I'm sure there's probably quite a number of dogs in the 200 houses in the neighborhood to the south, and I expect once in a while they'll bark. Now, with respect to safety, I've got a pretty substantial number of family and cousins and so forth. There's been 2 serious dog incidents in my family. My sister was bitten in the face in the churchyard by a neighbor's dog. She was 6 years old, had to have a lot of stitches. And my nephew's former wife, she was bitten in her house by a neighbor's dog and had to have 3 surgeries in her face. But I'm not aware of anyone who's had any incidents from the Humane Society. And what I think the Humane Society does is, I think they reduce the number of dogs that might be turned loose that might cause problems out there. So I think the safety of the nearby folks might be better with the Humane Society in that location. So that's all I have. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
And someone brought up that today we actually function close to an elementary school, probably within 5 miles.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
One of the concerns was that people that would drop off dogs, you know, after hours. Do you experience that? Have you experienced that where people just drop off, you know, abandoned animals where you come in the morning and there's a dog? And that was a concern. So I guess I want you to address that
Sure.
one way or the other, if that
Sure.
is common or.
Over the years,
Mhm.
minimal. But yes, there has been dogs left in a yard.
Mhm.
When we come to the yard, yeah, it's a fenced yard, obviously, but when we come in, there's minimal noise. They're scared out of their mind, hidden in a corner in most cases.
Mhm.
Or they're left in a external kennel where there is no exit. So addressing current procedures will be done as well with the new facility. We will have to have all that taken into account. We don't know if that will happen. We have no
Sure.
control of that happening. But I know some of the Trinity folks who support our coming into the location, their concern was the aesthetics and talking about having the parking lot process on the side or something to that effect, where it kind of shifts the building around. We have nothing defined in our plan yet as far as our design is concerned. If we can make that work, of course we will, because it benefits us. It's, like I mentioned before, it's a high-level stress, so eliminating or minimizing, hopefully eliminating, the stress, keeping it to a minimum is our goal across the board.
Where you,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yep.
I'm so sorry.
where you are currently,
I'm so sorry.
where you are currently in Regent Park?
8177 Regent Park, so it's right
So-
on the curve. Do you know where the Morning Star?
I go by it all the time.
Oh,
so
great. I'm
I'm
so
well
sorry.
aware it is.
You weren't asking me. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so, yeah, I'm not doing good on this one.
That's okay. Sorry.
You have residential fairly close to you there.
Yes.
Do you have knowledge of complaints?
No. The only incident we had was from the townhomes across the way, just asking us not to walk our dogs through their walkways, and we complied. So we do get along very well with the Morning Star Church. They allow us to walk around the facility. Is there any others that we? The school, oh yes, the school across the street. We walk by them all the time, no complaints. And that's on Regent Park itself.
Yeah, I know where it is. My son plays soccer, or used to play soccer there a lot on the weekends.
Mhm.
So.
Did that answer?
Anyone else have a question? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so that closes the public session section of this case. At this point in time, I'll open it up for a motion, and the discussion will be amongst the board.
Chair, if I might, there's a section of the code that I think might help. So 155.1327 is a section that talks about technical studies. And so technical meaning like an acoustical study or a noise study. So this section of the code gives this board the authority to request that kind of study from the applicant. So I know a lot of people have quoted, from the internet and anecdotally and all that sort of stuff. I went to graduate school and my thought is that peer reviewed? So, and what was the methodology, all that sort of stuff. So in requesting a study like this, it would be based specifically on the site and based specifically on fact. So I just wanted to let you all know that you have the option to request something like that.
Actually, I do have a question.
Yes.
So, does this special exception stay with property? And is it tied to the user in any way? And can it be tied? Meaning, we have a humane society who is asking for a special exception for this piece of property. But if the property was sold, does that use remain with the property?
That's a good question. I know like the variance runs with the land. Do either of you have thoughts on that?
Yeah,
What's that?
it's like an event venue.
Case by case, correct?
I would expect so.
Yeah,
Meaning if the property is sold, the next person would have to come back
back for,
for a special
request.
exception to continue it?
So remember the lady in Fort Mill had the horse. When the horse died, she had to come back for a second one.
Rachel, can you repeat Rachel,
Mhm.
can you repeat that study number? Is there a study number on that?
Yeah, so it's 155.1327, and it's called Technical Studies.
Okay.
It's in the administration section. Review and decision-making bodies will occasionally be required to consider proposed development that is unusually significant, has unusually significant impacts on adjacent lands and resources and other members of the community. In those cases, the review and decision-making bodies may find that the procedures specified in the sections of this chapter that govern this case do not allow a full and complete examination and articulation of the environmental and other impacts of the proposed development. This situation is expected since these procedures are generally tailored to the more routine cases. Blah, blah, blah. Applicability, so it talks about our department, the Board of Zoning Appeals, and County Council may require the submission of a technical report or study prior to acting on any of the following types of applications. Special exception use applications is one of them. So these technical reports and studies may include one of the following, noise study being one of them.
Okay.
So we are closed and looking for a motion, correct?
What's our time, David? What's our time, David?
10 o'clock.
It's 10?
Isn't it 10 o'clock? We have to make a vote. 9:20. We have to make it, no,
No,
I'm saying, we
to
have to make a
extend.
vote to go over 10 o'clock, right?
10 o'clock, okay.
We're looking for a motion.
Yeah, and I will add, we did throw out, discuss a number of kind of conditions that we could, staff has one which the applicant has to revise. And there were a couple others with regards to maybe sound, and I had one with the trail on it. So if you go that direction, think about what conditions might put on it.
And to clarify, we can make a motion to defer and require a sound, what was the?
That's correct,
Sound
a
study?
noise study, that's
Noise
correct.
study.
And that would be specific to that property, they would do a study?
That's correct.
Yes, okay.
They would have to hire a
Right.
consultant and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
I will just say that the noise is, to me, it's the big unknown. So it is, it's the elephant in the room for me, it's the thing I don't understand. I mean, the noise levels inside, to me, are extremely concerning. Over 85 decibels, you're supposed to have hearing protection. Over 90 decibels, you're only supposed to be exposed to it intermittently with hearing protection. So, it's one of those readings was 90 decibels. But now that's inside.
Don't we need?
So
I need to
outside-
interrupt, I'm sorry, yeah.
We need a motion.
We need
Yeah.
a motion for discussion.
You should know that.
I make a motion to defer and ask for a noise study, sound study. I need a second on that. So
I'll second it.
I think that's the biggest issue, one of the bigger issues here.
And there's such a discrepancy.
I've got a
between-
lot of issues with this project, but I think that's the big deal. If I had to make a decision tonight, I'm voting no. I just don't think it goes here. But the noise study may change my mind. I'll just put it that way. I feel like we always get on this board. We always get stuff that comes up that nobody wants in their backyard, whether it be dirt pits,
Cell towers.
event venues, cell towers,
Yeah.
but there's always a cutoff time for those.
Mhm.
There's no cutoff time for a dog barking. You know, they're gonna bark when they want to.
But they're going to be
Inside.
indoors.
I agree, but nobody can tell us how loud that's gonna be. You know?
I've done enough work around kennels and shelters.
So the-
I think it's, minimal.
And I would love to take your word for that,
But
I
I'm
think
also
it's
not
the
gonna,
same-
I'm also not gonna stick my neck out and
Right,
say that it's not
I
gonna be.
think that's got, you know, to me,
Yeah.
no offense, but that's got about as much credibility as boomspeaker.com does. You know,
So the question is, you know, how much more noise is created by doubling the number of dogs? How much noise is reduced by it being inside rather than outside? I mean, it could come down to the materials the building is made
Right,
of.
the acoustic,
You know,
yeah.
and we've had noise issues before, and they are always extremely difficult to deal with. Even if it's within 100 feet and requires an acoustical fence. Okay, well, what is that? And exactly how much noise reduction do you get from that? Noise is always, it's always just an unknown.
Right.
If
And it
there is an
changes.
expert out there, you're gonna have to find them if the motion passes, because I don't know who it is.
Well, and it's changing, you know, it could be bad for a couple weeks and it could be nothing for a couple
Yeah,
weeks, you know, it's not a constant.
I actually think I want to rescind my motion.
Don't need to vote on it.
Well, I think, you know, now, listening to you talk about that, there's just too many variables for me to be able to make a conscious decision. So I would like to rescind my motion to defer.
Can we do that?
I don't know who your parliamentarian
Was there a
is.
second on
Yes.
the,
Yeah.
There was.
There was a
Jeff did
second.
second.
okay.
So we have to vote on this, right?
And
Yeah, I guess maybe
did
if
the
you wanted-
second. I would like to see it proceed.
I'm sorry?
I seconded the motion, I'd like to see it proceed
You would like to see it proceed
Proceed.
with,
with a vote.
With the vote on the
oh,
board,
yes.
On the defer.
on the
I
defer.
rescinded it, so you'll have to make your own motion.
No, I don't know if.
I believe,
Can-
I
can
don't
you
know
rescind the motion?
parliamentarian.
Yeah, well, he rescinded his motion to defer and asked the applicant to come back with a noise study. We did get a second for that, so I guess we'll have to take a vote on the board about rescinding, and if someone wants to make a new motion, then that will need to happen in order for discussion to continue.
So are we voting on, are we voting on my recommendation to rescind my motion?
Well, who's,
I made the motion and I rescinded my motion, so
I think
I
I can-
believe under Robert's rules that we have to, somebody else has to make the motion.
I would think you would vote on the motion myself, but
Right.
Let's just vote on the motion.
Well,
No discussion.
okay. I mean, I've spent a fair amount of time near or around their current facility. My son played soccer across the street on the weekends all the time. I'm by there all the time, not in my car. I don't think you'd know there were, outside of seeing them walk, the dogs in the yard between the building and the street, I don't think you'd know this facility was even there. So I think they do a really good job. And I think the noise is a concern and could be an issue, but I also think it could not be. And I think the idea of going with a study just to get the next level of information before we make our final decision one way or the other, because it needs to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And anywhere it goes, and the other thing is, we keep saying this is a zoned residential, but it's not.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
It's zoned RUD, and there's a lot of stuff you can do that makes noise in RUD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're in the city of Fort Mill.
Yeah, I mean, it's not zoned residential. So, I just think it'd be good due diligence to get the study done before we make a final decision.
All right.
Anyone else have thoughts, comments?
No, I'm pretty much in agreement.
Okay.
Need more information.
So the motion is to defer until an appropriate sound study can be done? Is that what?
Do we need to set some parameters on this sound study?
No, I think staff is capable of working with the consultant on that and with the applicant. The only thing.
And what about a timeframe? Is there a timeframe we
I
need
mean,
to set? or how do
it depends, I guess it sort of depends on the applicant, it depends on the consultant. So maybe let's not continue it to a date certain, and then they'll come back when they're ready. I would maybe also double check with the applicant that they are.
Willing to go forth? Yeah, okay.
Well, since I made the motion, I'll ask the applicant. Are you willing to go forward with a sound study? Okay, thank
Nope,
No,
you. No, sorry.
no, sir.
So, public hearing's closed.
Sorry. Okay, so the motion is to defer
Defer.
until a study can be completed and staff has reviewed it. All,
and he'll present it.
and the
Yeah.
percentage yes. So all in favor of that motion, raise your right hand. Okay,
Unanimous.
that passes.
I did. Motion to adjourn over Teams.
Hold on, let's see, we have no further
Have executive session.
items on our agenda.
I made a motion.
Second.